Microphone. There we go. Hey, and welcome to the Zoom Test Kitchen. I'm Jeff Widgren, your host each Friday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, and glad to have you all here. We have kind of a cool agenda today. It won't be perfect because it's not a finished product yet, but one that I feel it's pretty important to get prepared for. So we're live streaming on our YouTube channel. You can always go back and watch those archives or pieces of those archives, and we're recording as well. So with that, as a matter of fact, with our focus today on Companion 3.0, which is under development, my vMix module, it doesn't say it's broken. I'll show you what that looks like, but it's broken. it's not working. So I am using my iPad, sending commands that way to vMix. So may not be super smooth, but needless to say, we'll get done what we need to get done. We'll learn lots from it as well. Ray, David, Justin, give me gallery view, David, two Davids, Brady and Paskin. We got Scott, Mike, Douglas. Hey, Douglas. And got, who else have we got? Douglas, Bobby, Tony, Jan. So welcome. How many are here with and ready to kind of play with Companion 3.0 within the meeting? Okay. So if you want co-host, just say so. You write it in the chat, if you will. David Brady is the host, or I mean, David Paskin is the host, and he can grant you co-host so that you don't have to have co-host to get the data, but you have to be co-host to do something with it, if you will, as far as switching. My connection, actually, I haven't been able to populate my Stream Deck or companion buttons yet. I'm still not seeing data there, and I've bounced it and restarted companion and the whole bit, so I'm not quite sure what the challenge is there, but I can still walk you through things on the new companion and building out buttons. I know David Paskin has spent a lot of time last couple of weeks on it as well. I'm wondering, David Paskin, are you fully converted? You not too long ago you were teaching Stream Deck application classes.
Yeah, I've jumped the whatever I had to jump. I am fully using 3.0 now. Bear in mind, I don't do anything terribly mission critical most of the time. But yeah, and so far it's working like a charm so far for me.
Yeah. For what you've got.
Oh, I just muted you. I'm so sorry. Hold on. Oh no, wait. Maybe it's not working perfectly.
I'm clicking. I'll get myself unmuted. But even for Ecamm, is it working for you as well?
No, so I don't use Companion with Ecamm. So
gotcha.
I use plain vanilla Stream Deck with Ecamm on one machine, and then I run OSC and ISO on my other machine. So
very good. Very good.
Now see, there we go again. So it's broken, guys.
Yeah. Well, it may not be broke. You know what I run into, and I don't know if this is what you're running into, is when you're off staging, you may be muting me accidentally with the defined action. Don't know.
But I'm pressing my button in the list view, and it was I was de-spotlighting myself. I was trying to, but it was de-spotlighting you.
Interesting.
I'm gonna check my buttons, make sure they're right.
Yeah, I'll check the buttons, and
it has your name on it. I was clicking your name.
If we find something, we'll report it. If it's just in your config, then we'll just fix it. So, but I think every show I do, walk in with it. The companion module's up, ZoomOSC is populating, and there's always an adjustment I do on the fly. I just did one the other day where I thought I had it all down, on stage, off stage, the primary speaker's kind of always there, but I bring somebody up next to her and I on stage and then I off stage. And I reminded myself by doing it that I keep forgetting to, because I'm the voice of God that says, hey, I'd like to welcome, Gina up at this point, right? So I on stage her. Well, I unmute to do that. Then I on stage, selected on stage that person. And then I often forget to mute myself again. And it's not like I'm making a lot of noise, but I have once. And that's really kind of all it takes. So for this particular job, I added an unmute and a remute on my own mic, my vMix mic, and it worked just perfectly. And then all I had to do was just adjust my timing, knowing that when I hit on stage, I get unmuted, they get sent a unmute request because I have everybody in the audience locked down on unmuting, and then it waits 2 to 3 seconds maybe before it spotlights, giving them time to respond to the unmute request, and they get spotlit, and bingo, they're there with very little pause, if any. So always just little tweaks, but it's cool that you can do it, and it's important to have the tools up. David Pask and I we worked together, on that event the other day, and in one of my, kind of bundles of nerves were there were a lot of co-hosts, and we've talked about that, and just before I came to get the meeting going, I thought, I've always said, I've not always, I used to do, co-host as well until it started biting me and things would happen in the event, spotlights or mutes or whatnot, unbeknownst to me. I wasn't doing it, but some other co-host was, clicking around and so forth. So anyways, so I really wanted to figure out a way to, kind of kill that practice if at all possible. Now, justifiably going to the event the other day, we had people join the meeting that absolutely had to have access to Q&A, right? They had to moderate Q&A. And there is not a way other than making them co-hosts to give them that visibility, which is like handing them the keys to the kingdom. But that's squarely in Zoom's lap to get that fixed, because we shouldn't have to give near full administrative privileges, if you will, in a meeting to somebody who's simply there to moderate Q&A. And it just puts us in a really risky position as the producers of the show. so so I was thinking, David, is the other side that makes me nervous about it is that we don't know their level of expertise or skill or knowledge, right? And so I often, I mean, there's no way to track down who did that, right? Like if something unexpectedly, hey, who did that? You'll never know. I'll never know. And but so we offer it. I go, well, there's another risk, and we don't even know who they are, what their skill level is, and so forth. I thought 20 minutes ago, we don't even know if they're sitting at a stream deck with companion with all kinds of buttons that do what we do. You know what I'm saying? So it's even, a little bit more frightening. I mean, a lot of what we do with companion obviously can be done, I'll just say, in a cumbersome way, right? Mouse click, 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 click inside of Zoom. But certainly they have access to the same tools we do as well. And then if we give them the rights to do it, then all the worse.
And Douglas mentioned in the chat that, couldn't you use an outboard Q&A system? And hypothetically, sure. But if you're not the office hours crew, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'll
I mean,
tell you,
we couldn't get.
customers and attendees, customers making the decisions about the event, really shy away from throwing another application or tool or even website to require of their attendees.
I mean,
Yeah,
we had people who literally did not know how to type a URL into an address bar because Google has destroyed that for all of us. And I'm not meaning to put anyone down, but when that's the level of knowledge and awareness out there, adding Mukana, as wonderful as it is for those of us who live in this space, it's a non-starter.
it is. Yeah, Tamara is in the meeting with us, and she was there as well. And she was just there for, meet, greet, friendly face. Hello, is there any help I can provide? Tech help if it was needed. What'd you end up taking, Tamara? 60, 70, 90 calls? Phone calls directly to your phone, right? Oh, you're muted. Oh, do I have you guys locked down? No? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't unmute myself. I see. No, I took it.
You can grant unmute, David. That's fine. I turned that off earlier.
Yeah, I'd love to. Can I just say, I cannot spotlight you. No matter what I do, this is the most insane thing. No, you.
Oh, me?
Well, now he seems spotlit.
This is great. Now you are, and so now I'm going to try and unspotlight myself.
David is out of control.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm done.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny. I was just about to say, welcome to the need for delays that are, even relative delays with multi-action buttons, right? Because more than likely you have the actions in there correctly, but they may all be zero delays, and often it just can't accomplish it. I don't know.
No,
sure.
I've got them all set to 0. I mean, excuse me, to 0, then 100, then 100. Oh, yeah.
Now, if you have a 100 to 100, do you have the checkbox up top for relative delays?
No.
That you need to do, because 100 followed by a 100 without relative is they are both start at the same time, and they do it, they both experience the same delay at the same time, rather than in order delay, which really helps guarantee the success of the changes you're trying to make. And that'll probably improve what you've got going on. Okay, Tamara, can you unmute now?
I can now. Yay.
There you go. All right. So share real quickly, there's kind of some of the common denominators of all those calls.
Yeah. So we originally had set up so that I would be helping people once they're in a meeting. If they need help, we'll put them in a little chat room. I'll give them some tech support. But really where people had their most significant problems was getting online to begin with. Like they couldn't get in. And so some of those people were just, the link wasn't working for them. We had to work around. I could quickly tell them. But a lot of people, like David said, were, I don't know how to use my computer. I don't know how they were typing into the wrong place, and, all kinds of different things. So that was our main, our bigger problem. So we still have a significant number of people who just don't know how to use their computers. And when you ask them, do you know how to use Zoom? They say yes, because they've gone to many, many, many Zoom meetings, but they don't really know how they get there. They don't know if they're browser users, if they actually have the app on their computer, what version they're using, what their password is to get into those versions. So all of those things are part of the problem.
Yeah. And people don't, there's a lot of people who will type or even paste a URL into the Google search, not the URL bar, right? Because it's kind of front and center and so forth. So it poses challenges. And this was an event that, David had put together a web page, dedicated web page with its own URL that just had the agenda top to bottom and join buttons that, link them right to the next Zoom meeting and the whole bit. And it was just beyond a lot of them. It was really interesting. So anyways, that's that. Did anybody who needed co-host get it? Let's take care of that. Make sure that you have the ability to involve yourself here. Anybody? Raise hands, whatnot. Lois? Where'd Lois go? There you are. You need to, oh,
Looks like Scott has his hand up.
yeah, the opportunity to unmute went away. I just turned it back on.
Okay.
Not sure.
I just, sorry, I just wanted to see if I get co-host, if I wanted to either share a screen or I could just make it my camera as well.
You got it.
I could do this. I could do this and you could see my companion and what I'm up to.
Sure. Yeah, let's spotlight Scott there.
Dev, would I need co-host to follow the companion steps with ZoomISO?
ZoomISO has to have co-host, where ZoomOSC doesn't have to be co-host to, well, ZoomISO didn't used to need it because you could pull the video, but I think it does now because it looks like a recorder, and so looks like a local record. So ISO these days has to be co-host, and ZoomOSC, you can pull data and get it populated on your Stream Deck, for instance, but you won't be able to execute anything until you're co-host. So that's kind of 50% there without it.
Copy. So please give me co-host, David, if you don't mind.
Forgive me. Who was that?
That was what, ZISO Andre?
It's Andre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Lois, did you get your co-host? Lois is looking for it. Talk about putting myself in a dangerous spot, or the Zoom Test Kitchen in a dangerous spot. So much power out there.
You
But,
giving Lois co-host, that's dangerous.
I know.
Never know. Yeah, I assumed you were host, Jeff. I didn't go and look. So excuse me for sending you the wrong message.
Oh, that's okay. I'm not. And I'll tell you, there's it's kind of an active challenge. There's a few things that like you have to be host to do. And some of those things I should have listed them out because I don't have them off the top of my head. But one or two things in particular caught my attention that ZoomISO can, or ZoomOSC can do via companion, but only for the host. It's like for your machine, whether it's, I don't remember what it was, but then there's a conflict. It's like, okay, well, then I'll fire up the meeting on my main vanilla client, and then I'll give host to my ZoomISO machine. But then when I do that, if I'm streaming or cloud recording, that's derived from the host machine. And that's not the responsibility of the ZoomISO machine, is to have a desktop on its primary screen that represents the recording or stream that we wish to go out. And so there's a little bit of a challenge there. And so David is host because I've asked him to switch and manage spotlights and so forth. So whatever's on his main screen is what the output will be primarily. And then I don't have to worry about that or screw it up with it being on the ISO box or whatnot. So that's the part I need to still really nail down and see, is there a good combination and mix between who's who, with the challenge of recording and streaming being derived from the host and these features. And it may just end up being that, at the end of the day, I really don't in most events have to have those features available to me on the ISO box. So we'll see. Well, I'm still kind of checking that out. All right. Any initial questions in the sense that you've maybe spent time with, been looking at, been reading, been talking about Companion 3 or ZoomOSC, that you kind of want to throw out there to the group that we can either respond to or make sure it gets responded to within our discussions and exercises today? No? Okay.
I think
Wait,
one
Jeff.
thing to be really clear on is what is the actual status of Companion, because it's not quite production worthy for V3.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's a beta product, and there's a lot of broken modules in it. I mean, it's a complete rewrite, from the get-go. So I think every vendor who has a module for Companion is going to have to, whether it's the vendor or the open source folks that, whoever took on the writing of it, that module is going to have to get it up to date and rehooked back into Companion to make it useful. I know when Scott was coming into the meeting today, he said, which module did you ask me about?
3.0, he was asking.
No.
Oh, I was asking about mix effect, if it worked at all, or if it was just
Yeah.
partially and it doesn't seem to work at all.
Yeah, mix effect, and I'll show you that page. But yeah, there's a lot. I was surprised. I thought I was kind of in, because my two main products are, OSC, ISO, and vmix. And vmix didn't indicate in its module of Companion that that has a little yellow flag that it'll be on it, but it doesn't work. And as a matter of fact, so I have a button that starts the pre-show, which is the video roll with music, and it wouldn't launch that. Now, all that button does is calls a script that it lives in vmix, and so it's just calling the script is all, and it wouldn't do it. So then I hit my main camera button, and it started the pre-roll. I'm like, what? It was really weird behavior. So yeah, there's a lot. I tell you, Zoom is way in front, I think, with having, Jeffrey Davidson and others that are contributing. I know Justin's ramping up to do that as well. That I think way ahead of the game on getting a module that will be Companion 3.0 ready. And
Jeff, I just want to jump in, because I was complaining before that things weren't working. I've now discovered that was entirely user error. So, so go Companion. I love you. You're great. I ruined it. And Lois has her hand up.
Yes, she does.
So I was wondering when off-topic questions would be. How long? When should I come back? Because I don't have those things you're talking about today. So.
Yeah, if you're not interested in the exposure and just want to come back for other questions, I'd say we probably need at least 90 minutes. I mean, so towards the latter part of a 2-hour block, I guess. So love to have you back. And I was going to ask you, it's like, you have Companion, and so you don't. Okay.
I don't pay attention to what the topic is for the day. I just come for the Q&A.
I got you. Very good. All right. Well, we'll see you back here, and look forward to that. So
we have
Scott,
a couple more hands up. Yeah.
What do you got, Scott?
I do like, I'm just in trying to convert some of my old buttons to the new. I do like how the OSC and ISO, all the commands seem to be separate now, where we're nested together before in groups. So really easy to see in that search bar, just you can find all the actions. So I do like how they split those out. One thing I didn't see, I was just playing around with some of the breakout rooms, and it wasn't quite working for me sending. And one thing I do notice is it doesn't seem to be a button to send people back to the main meeting. Is that something you can do? Because I was thinking about, just having a production breakout room, and I could, when I pick somebody, it will send them a nice little chat, says, in 10 seconds, you're going to get sent to the breakout room. And then it sends them off into that breakout room. But I would need to have another ZoomOSC in the main. If my ZoomISO is in the breakout room collecting people's images, I would need to be running ZoomOSC in the main meeting as well in order to control. Could I, in my companion, have ZoomOSC in a breakout room and a ZoomOSC in the main room, and send them to two different?
Yeah, well,
you know what I'm saying?
So the first thing, is at first I'll say if you have enough monitors, otherwise things can get pretty screwy on your desktop. But one of the advantages of the ZoomISO and OSC client for a long time, I think ever since it's been out, is it is multi-instance usable. You can even, on the same machine, you can launch your meeting in the vanilla client, and you can launch with the OSC client. And I do believe, I don't do it much, but I do believe you can use the same account, and I think it's friendly like a mobile device. A mobile device, I can log in with the exact same account as my desktop client, and it won't cause one to log out, not leave the meeting, but to log out. I think OSC still operates that way. So I think you could in fact get creative that way. I don't know if you had if you had separate Stream Deck, Companion, OSC, in the breakout and the same makeup in the main session, I think you'd be all right. And then that system could kind of jump and move from breakout to breakout or whatnot as well. So it'll be interesting. I think we have a long ways to go in the sense of creative things that we can do. Companion is really stretching the boundaries that it's been within with 3.0. That it's a really significant change and improvement that I've seen so far, along with OSC. And I'm not going to say ISO at this point. This is really all about OSC at the moment.
Hey, Jeff, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Because we have Mark who's asking as a noob what ZoomOSC is. Could you
Sure.
back up a little bit and just...
You bet. I'm trying to find Mark. No, Mark Hannon. Yeah, so really like to, try to find a way to make it super understandable that says when you're using Zoom, which most people can totally relate to almost 3 years later, if that's kind of when you started at the beginning of the pandemic, you know what you can do with a mouse, as far as dropping menus down and pinning and spotlighting and muting and unmuting and so forth. and then if you go under the settings, there's also shortcuts, right, that are built into Zoom. And then you can, buy this device called a Stream Deck, and it comes with its software, the Stream Deck application. But it just taps into it brings those shortcuts that are built into Zoom out onto a button. And so it really doesn't enhance the experience in the sense. And what I mean by that is, if we knew, David, are you ready for this? David Paskin?
What am I ready for?
If you just get your fingers ready.
I'm so
ready. If you
ready.
knew that the next panel that was coming up was made up of Jeff Widgren, Ray Franklin, Frank Haney, and Justin James, how quickly could you make that transition, right? To drop the current spotlight, which could be one or more, and replace it with these next four. And that you can't.
I missed one of the names.
You
Sorry.
can't do with shortcuts, right? But David was I can tell you, I'm pretty sure I know what David's got is set up anyways, is the ability. He has a Stream Deck interface. See if my shortcuts work here. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Is that so? There's my empty Stream Deck interface. It's not populating with data right now. But anyways, that's a page. This is my real Stream Deck. There's my finger. Where he could select, press on the names I rattled off. And then he has different borders. You can spotlight yourself, David, if you want to show that, if you like. He has some border icons that are actions. And so he says, okay, it's going to be you, and you, bring them on stage. And one, 4 selections because there's 4 people, but one that says bring them on stage and everything that's associated with that. Mute everybody else who was just on stage, mute them, unspotlight them, bring these 4 up and unmute them, spotlight them, and so forth, all in like one button. And so it really helps you get things done faster, smoother, more accurately, and so forth, bringing the power. That's what ZoomOSC does. Where the interface of a vanilla Zoom client, even with shortcuts, falls short, Zoom makes available a development kit, their SDK, that lets third-party developers tap into functionality such as spotlighting, multi-spotlighting, and so forth. And that's where ZoomOSC was born, is pulling out the additional functionality for automation out of Zoom, and doing it via OSC is actually a protocol, the open source protocol. That's the language between, the command language, if you will, between the SDK and companion, and just ties it all together and really, really, really enhances the opportunity to manage a Zoom meeting better than anybody else, really, when you have it all
We've got
set up. And
a couple
ready to
questions
go.
if we want to jump to them.
Yeah, David.
We got David Brady and Lois, and I know that Justin also wanted to jump in for.
Yeah, I would add, because I just had to go through explaining what ZoomOSC is to our InfoSec group at my company, an alternative Zoom client that was written using the Zoom's SDKs that expose all of these controls. Some of them aren't even native to Zoom, and they're OSC specifically driven. So I hope that helps that question. And as far as like the control surface, the Stream Deck is the popular one because it has that graphical interface with etc. But I've been experimenting with X keys controllers, MIDI controllers, and a whole slew of other things just to give that busking capability to Zoom. So I hope that helps a little bit. And good seeing everybody. All right, I haven't been around a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, David. Good to see you as well. Okay, who else is up? Lois.
So, David, may I ask you a question? You were showing a panel for us, and Jeff was saying, and this one button does this and this and this and this and this. Where is it written down which button does what? In other words, do you have a list somewhere that you can show us?
Sure. So let me hold on a second. So I'm the problem with this program is that I'm building out my Stream Deck as we learn together. Okay, so this is, I have a few different pages here. So I'll just start with a gallery page. So basically, you can see that right here, I've got you, Lois, and that's showing me that you are the first in my gallery because you have your hand raised and you're the last person speaking. So if I click on you, you'll see that this is to what this button does is when I click it, it pre-selects you. Basically, it selects you. It makes you the active person that I can now take actions on. Then I built out over here an on-stage button, an off-stage button, and a full spotlight button. So let's just jump into the on-stage button. And I have 5 different things that happen when I press this button. The first is lowers your hand. The second is it unmutes you. Third is it adds spotlight. So it doesn't just spotlight you, but it adds you into the spotlight. The fourth is it sets gallery view for my OSC machine, because OSC/ISO needs to be in gallery view to make all this work. And finally, it clears my participant selections. So I have Justin, who has his hand up right now. Justin, I'm going to pick on you for a second, if that's okay. I'm going to select Justin so you can see he turned yellow. That happens because of certain feedbacks that are built into this. You can also see that he's got the little hand up there. So now any button that I press is going to take all those actions on him. So if I press full spot, he should, number one, he should be unmuted. Number two, his hand should go down. Number three, he should move up to spotlight. Number four, my OSC machine should be set back to gallery view, which you won't be able to see. And number five, it should clear any participant selections. And right now I've just selected him. So I'm going to go ahead and press full spot. And now you can see that he is now, and if you come back to my screen, I'll just do the same thing for my screen. You can see that his hand was lowered, and he was on screen. So, you know, it truly is life-changing for navigating and managing Zoom meetings. And the reason I'm running into problems here is because I'm an idiot, and I did not have all my buttons set up correctly. And so I had multi-selection on. So you can choose single selection, which will change who you're choosing, or you could have multi-selection. So you can choose multiple people and say, throw them all up on stage at the same time. I had multi-selection on. Then when I was clicking a button like on stage, I didn't have clear selections built in. So it wasn't clearing these, and then I was pressing another action, and it was getting all confused. So that's that. And Justin is saying for the off stage, I would add a mute for the previous spotlight. So yeah, so my off stage button does a few things. It unspotlights them, it mutes them. Again, it sets gallery view, and it clears participants.
Interestingly enough, I was left unmuted and muted myself when you unspotlighted me.
That's because I didn't unspotlight you. I didn't kick you off stage. I just spotted myself.
Got it.
In place of you. So that would actually be an interesting thing to figure out, is that when you change spotlight. So what my workflow is, let's say I have, I'm going to go ahead and send you back up there. Justin, I'm going to full spotlight you. So, well, that did not work. Or did that not? Oh, because
you have multi on.
Yeah, see, there you go. And I need to clear my selections. All right, so now I'm going to choose Justin. I'm going to do full spot. Okay. So now my workflow is, if I want to switch the spotlight quickly, I'll just press myself and then hit full spotlight, my full spotlight button. And that takes you off, because it's replacing the spotlight, but it's not muting you. Now, I guess I don't know how to build a mute in for the person I just kicked off spotlight, but yes, that would definitely be possible. Sorry, Jeff, back to you. Back to our regularly scheduled program, but David has his hand up and Hesmuk has his hand up also.
Yep. So David and Jeff, just a quick question regarding the multi-stepped actions, because you mentioned there's a mode where they'll fire off in parallel, or they can fire off sequentially, correct?
Yeah.
And if so, if they're firing sequentially, do they need to be additive, where like 100 milliseconds first, 110 milliseconds for the second one? And would that only be a 10 millisecond difference, or would it be 110 from the first action?
So if you'll spotlight me, David, it's better to talk about it while we look at it as well. So trying to click on my display versus the source. Sorry about that. So let's take on stage, for instance, and it's a multi-action. Let me get my pip out of there. and so, there's not a lot, but there's three things that it does. And this button hasn't been rewritten, so I can't even tell by reading it what it does. I haven't rebuilt this button that came from 2.41 companion, and next to nothing converts in 3.0. It has to be rebuilt. But needless to say, I do know on staging, I'm going to unmute them. I'm going to spotlight them, and then I'm going to force my ISO machine back to gallery view, because I have a pretty good dependency that it has to be in gallery view to be able to, excuse me, keep my gallery page on my Stream Deck up to date. And so there's these multiple actions. So when you do multiple actions, and multiple actions can be from multiple vendors as well. If you have a soundboard that talks OSC, lighting controller that talks OSC, QLab that is your playback system, whatever the case may be, if they've written to, and there's, if I go to connections, you can see I think there's 385 different vendors that have written, companion connections, if you will. And so it's super powerful. I mean, with one button, you can turn the lights up and fade the fader channels up. And, it's just fascinating. So it's really got a lot of power. As far as the delay piece, if it's about using this checkbox or not, called relative delays. And so by default, relative delays is not checked. And so you have these three actions for this example. I would liken it to this visually. Although the action are stacked on top of each other, and so we kind of feel like they process from top to bottom, they actually really don't. They actually process in at exactly the same time. That's serial, right? In serial, where they all kick off at the same time and produce the result whenever their result gets produced. But there may be some dependencies depending on this needs to be done before that, and so forth. And so instead, and sometimes I just say they puke all over each other, because there's so much trying to go on at the same time. The engine that's, receiving the request and processing and so forth just gets jammed, and some things get kicked or lost or whatnot. So if you put on relative delays, well, let's do this. Let me leave it unchecked real quick, because Justin, made a point a week or two ago that said, if you don't do relative delays and you want to read it from top to bottom, the first one can be 0 delay, but the second one could be 50. But if you want the third one to act after the second one, that's going to have to be 100, and the next one 150. So it's 50, 100, 150, 200, and so forth, so that they act relative. Now, those are fixed staggers, if you will, versus you can do 0 on the first one, and then 50, 50, 50, 50, and then just click relative delays, and it will process top to bottom with the delay after the first one, then the delay after the second one, then the delay after the third one, and so it will take care of that for you. So when you have multi-action buttons, I often find you'll find that if you don't worry about delays, you'll have things not work that you really feel like they should be working. And if that's the case, click on relative, put in a 50 millisecond delay on each item, and you'll probably see things start working. And it just causes it to pace itself. Does that help, David? All right. Mark, question, comment?
Yeah, just a quick question on OSC and how it behaves when screen share is engaged. Does that have any more?
Yeah, so there is a command. I'll just zap this one that's falling apart anyways. So, kind of back to Lois's, which button question and so forth. When you get Companion, which is free software, by the way, you just download it. When you get it, this is where you start. It's just a blank page. There's dark buttons. They don't have any assignment or name or purpose. And it's just a platform that you can build to your heart's content. And then if you want to externalize your build, this emulation that it's showing us visually, that happens to be a emulation of a Stream Deck. If I go to my Stream Deck view in my picture, that's my physical Stream Deck, but it's not required. You can actually build it in Companion, and then this isn't going to do it justice because the emulator's not finished in 3.0 yet, but you can click on emulator and it'll show it on screen, but now it becomes truly clickable as far as like running an event, if you will. Or you can take this address and put it in your iPad or even your iPhone or any other tablet and just hit this address. And now you have a mobile device that you can, run the show with as well. So, but you can go to the store or go to Amazon and purchase a physical Stream Deck as well. But certainly it's just simply an option. So
Hey,
when
Jeff,
you,
Can you go back to the emulator and actually push the emulator button?
put that, you're
click
telling
on
me
it.
that's a button?
Yes.
Let me just say that's the least intuitive thing I've seen all
Yeah.
day so far.
I've got it up here now too.
Yes, I agree. I found it by mistake, just by accidentally clicked on it. So yeah,
Yeah,
the emulator is
so-
there.
That is
Yeah,
crazy.
that is that. I really hope they don't keep that because their emulator popped up to being a very like photorealistic. That's not quite photorealistic. Here's a kind of their web version representation, and the other one. But yeah, thanks for that point. But I really hope it doesn't stay that way because that's not obvious at all. All right, so to the question, what button was I going to do? Okay. Now you got to remind me. I was going to show you building an action that you had asked about, but I forgot what it was. Anybody?
I don't remember the action, but I know Justin has his hand up.
Yeah, I was going to go hunt something down. All right. Chime in if you want to remind me. Sorry about that. Justin.
So I have two comments. One, back to Scott's question on the breakout rooms. So even though there may not be a preset button, if you look in the ZoomOSC API list, there is a remove user from breakout command. And so you could use the generic OSC companion module to try to format that command to see, can you even get what you want working? And if you can, then you could submit a request over to the actual module to have a preset button. But first you got to make sure the command's actually there and it actually works. So I would start there for the breakout room one. And then second thing I want to say is, Jeff, you asked about things earlier to talk about. I think one of the things that would be helpful is how do you actually submit an issue to these modules as we're going through and testing and finding things that aren't actually working? Because I know you've kind of gone through that with the ZoomOSC and GitHub and whatnot. So that'd be
Sure.
good to actually cover for others.
Yeah, it's definitely on my notes, kind of resources, how do you submit a bug and so forth, especially when we're, spending time on a beta product. But, the popularity of Companion and its use and so forth is huge. And so with that, I think it's absolutely justified to prep ourselves to get on this platform, get familiar with it, be ahead of of most out there. and if you have the desire to, submit issues and so forth, where can you go to where the development team, which it's an open source project, but the development team will read it, like the very next day. I mean, Jeffrey Davidson is, I think, the primary developer on this module, and he while I'm sleeping, he's getting up and working, and vice versa. He's 6 or 7 hours difference from me, but needless to say, it works out kind of cool. So anyways, let's walk through, without making any assumptions, of really where to begin. And it is, one, ZoomOSC, and you can just simply search for it if you'd like, and it'll take you to a first hit of liminalet.com. ZoomOSC and ZoomISO, I think a lot of folks in here know that Zoom acquired them and their products and some of their staff and so forth as well. So it is a Zoom company, but with that, you can go here and you can download it, version 4.1.1, and go with that. They also make what is called ZoomISO, and ZoomISO is not managing a meeting, but it's being able to extract clean video feeds and audio feeds of individuals within a multi-populated Zoom meeting. So have them gather there, but if you're need to pull that video and audio out to deliver ultimately a produced piece versus a Zoom looking piece, that's what ZoomISO does, and does quite well.
And we should also mention that OSC is built into ISO. So if you have the standard plan of ZoomISO v2, you'll also have the standard plan of ZoomOSC. And if you have the pro plan of ZoomISO v2, you'll have access to the pro plan of OSC. And for me, the big difference between standard and pro of OSC is the ability to multi-spotlight. Is that you can only single spotlight with the standard OSC, and you can multi-spotlight with the pro.
Yeah. But on the standard, which is free, like ZoomOSC Essentials is free, it's certainly an easy way to get started, just getting familiar with the product and the features, and until you're craving, to be able to do this. And now you've justified, the cost of a license, which is worth it. So you go here and you download OSC. Now, what is, there's a little bit of a mystery. What is ZoomOSC as far as what do you get? When you download it, what are you downloading it? What's your world going to be like? And ZoomOSC is was originally a third-party developed application. The application itself is a Zoom client. It's just being created through the Zoom SDK. And so it doesn't have to replace your vanilla, what we call the vanilla client from Zoom, the one Zoom provides, but it could, you could just start ZoomOSC or ZoomISO, start a meeting, join a meeting. It is all of a client. But then it has its tools built in as well, as far as gathering data of the participants and being able to execute actions that go far beyond, Zoom's built-in shortcuts and so forth. So that's kind of where it sits. Common practice and recommendations from the OSC team, and Andy Carluccio is the one who, him and his team originally developed this, recommends that you take your normal Zoom client and start your meeting and let that, be the host. Then on a side computer, commonly, ZoomISO has been optimized for the Mac M1. And so on your Mac M1, fire up ZoomISO /OSC and join that meeting. So you've launched the application, but then you've joined the meeting that your Zoom-based client has started and is hosting. Then give that ISO, once it joins the meeting, give that ISO co-host privileges so that it can do what it needs to do. And that's kind of the common base framework, if you will, of what your working experience is like. So then to be able to build, and this is what we have been talking about today, let me get my mouse in the right place here, is if you do a search for BitFocus companion, you'll find a first hit there, bitfocus.io, and that Google search takes us directly to the companion page. And so with that, you can create an account. This is free as well. So you can sign up and create an account if you like, but there is no cost. But you can click on the download, can log in. When you do that, then they make, they make this product companion that we're talking about, companion that will run on a Pi, and then a companion satellite, which basically says, hey, if you have a studio or an office space that has 8 different computers and they're all involved in running the big show that's coming up, wouldn't it be nice to be able to take one of those 8 computers, build out your Stream Deck, and then have all the other ones have their own Stream Decks, but they're all pulling from the one master build, and they're all running their part of the show. One's doing audio, one's doing video, whatever, however it's all split up and delegated. That's what companion satellite is about. So you don't have to build your Stream Deck with companion and then export it and import it into all the others. You can just load satellite on the others and point it at the master, if you will. So you go to companion, you go to download, and there's a stable column for companion at 2.42. There's a beta column, which is where we're living today. And then there's an experimental column as well. So you can download that. And this plus number, these minor build numbers, today it's 5627. That number will go up throughout every day. Every single day, there will be some fresh, pushes out to this beta column for sure. So it just depends on how cutting edge you want to be. I'm going to say beta and experimental, I wouldn't recommend them for production at all. If you've been with it and you've been working with it and you know that the modules you depend on the most have in fact gotten themselves compliant to 3.0, then that's fine. But I wouldn't plan on going to a production, especially if it was like 3 to 3.1 or whatever the case may be. There's like these they are significant version increases, but 2.42 to 3 is a massive rewriting, and so there you'd be risking things there in production. Stable versions, great, but there's so much new in the 3.0 version. I really think it's worth spending time with today. All right, questions. I'll clean up my screen a little bit. All right, David, you stepped away. When he comes back, I may have
No,
him.
I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Okay. If I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize, but yeah, Justin, you put 2.42. I noticed that same thing. 2.42 is a new number. It was 2.41. So yeah, they've got a new stable release out there. Would you mind bringing up your companion? Because I'm not getting data. I downloaded. The only thing that's changed is that I downloaded the latest beta today, and now I can't pull data out of my meeting. So if you could bring yours up, and we'll just walk through building I don't want to take like a full page and explain it. I'd rather take a blank page and build it as far as an example, and just give everybody the opportunity to let their brains start. I mean, and David and I have both been through it over the last couple of weeks. It's, the more you plug away, the more you dream and wish. And it's like, can it be done? Or am I submitting a new feature request, right, to the development team? I mean, that's really what's been going on the most, but it really starts making you think. What was the last one, David? Is I want a button that always shows the active speaker's name. It just changes dynamically. That button, that's what it does. The moment that active speaker, for instance, becomes the troublemaker in your meeting, like significantly a troublemaker, it's always the same button. Their name is displaying, press it. And what do you want that to do? You could build the press actions to mute. You could build the press actions to eject. You could build it to mute, shut their video off. Just a number of things. You can just make that happen. So you start thinking about these things. Well, we found out that there's a break in the cycle, that we can't quite make that happen yet, but we've got a request in, and I think that will change in time. So, but
Yeah, and they didn't even realize that it was broken.
I know.
But if you look at my screen, let me actually spotlight myself. So if you look at my screen in the bottom row, you'll see my name, David Paskin, in green, and then if Jeff starts speaking,
yeah, it should change to active speakers. So now I'm the active speaker.
Right. Yeah. So that button is there. It does nothing right now. All that is I put a text string from variables. Did I do it from variables? Yes, I did it from variables.
Yep.
So I found in here the variable that I'm looking for, and I wanted active speaker. So this is going to tell me who my active speaker is. So I just copied that and I put that in as the button text string, and then I changed the background color. So all this is going to do is tell me who is the active speaker. Now, eventually what we're going to do is we're going to put an action here, and we're going to say, I don't know, I'll just do select, or you know what, let's do this. Let's do mute. Okay. So now what should happen, and then in username, we'll put that same thing. We'll put the same information, because we want whoever is on this button to be also selected when I press that button, and then to be muted. That isn't working right now, because this, what Companion is doing, or OSC, I'm not sure which, is instead of reading this as a variable, it's reading it as just text. And so it's actually looking for a speaker named $, parentheses, OSC, yada, yada, yada. So, but that's a known thing, and they are, and that will be fixed. But why don't we hop over to a new page? So here I've got a blank page, and let's build some stuff.
Can we go after, let's go after gallery first.
Yep.
Gallery is like super relative to us visually and so forth. So,
yep.
And it changes, right? Like it changes based on raised hands and so forth. And I think it pretty quickly shows the power of this.
So
just a quick question. You said your Companion isn't showing the feedbacks. Did you download the latest beta or the latest experimental today? Because I also downloaded the latest beta.
Yeah, I don't download experimental, but okay. I did the latest beta.
Yeah, me too, and it didn't reflect the variables as well.
Yeah, so I literally, while David's doing this, I'm gonna try to roll. I think in my downloads folder I still have the previous beta, and I'm gonna go launch that and see, because it's literally not pulling data in at all, and that's the only thing that's changed. So we'll give it a shot. All right, David, go ahead. Oh, you're muted. You're still muted, David.
Knew that. Sorry. I was just saying Bobby has his hand up, and so I wanted to make sure that we got to get to you.
Oh, thank you. So I've been through the companion thing once before, and I just basically just took it out and wiped it clean and went back in. But I had a problem with my Stream Deck when I first put companion in and I rebooted. My Stream Deck wasn't like booting up. So when I install Welcome to Companion, do I want to use Companion natively, or do I want to use it via Companion plugin? What is this? I never quite.
Yeah. So it's gone through this, cycle of it had to be, you either had to decide to use the Stream Deck app or decide to use Companion. Then I think there was a creative way to combine, and then there's a plugin that lets you use both at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I could dedicate, so it's dedicated, but now it's hybrid is basically what you mean? Like there was one way to dedicate it completely and not use Stream Deck for like anything else.
So my understanding is that if you have, and I've seen this with 3.0, if you have your Stream Deck app on your computer open, and then you open Companion, Companion will not find your device, your Stream Deck. You have to open Companion first. And even then, having Stream Deck even open can cause problems.
Well, but there is the plugin as well, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I'm saying you can't use both in parallel unless you're using a plugin or something like that.
Yeah.
So
if you haven't gone under the settings of Companion and enabled the Stream Deck portion, the Stream Deck app portion of it, then you'll have issue. But you can do both. Most of the people I work around eventually abandon the Stream Deck app and use Companion.
That's so I would rather just do that from the beginning to just use it natively, I guess, right?
Right. The problem is that not every app that you use has a plugin. So, I'm an Ecamm user and there is not a good plugin. I don't know if there's any plugin at all. So I need to use both. So what I could do is I could come over to my settings right up here and then come down here where it says use Elgato plugin for Stream Deck access, which I'm not going to do right now because it requires.
That's fine. Okay. So, I mean, I'm just going to put it in with the Companion plugin for now. And then I could always,
Yep. I have both on my computer. I just don't open my Stream Deck.
Yeah. So is it better to have, should I buy another Stream Deck and have one for like my regular stuff and then one dedicated to?
If only when you're using the plugin is my understanding.
Okay.
Companion takes over. Both apps need to take control of your USB devices, as I understand it.
I'll just use it with the plugin for now, and I guess.
But the other approach is like if you're not, say Companion, it has you, wrapped around its finger because it does great for shows, Zoom management, vMix, whatever, right? But then when you're just home and you're offline and you want to launch your favorite local apps and have the convenience of all that, just shut down Companion and fire up the Stream Deck app and plug in, connect your Stream Deck. And I mean, you can go back and forth all day long, but it takes that plug-in to be able to do both at the same time.
Yeah, Ward is saying that he uses both in the same in parallel every day. I'd love to hear, Ward, how you're doing that. My solution is I have two computers, my OSC computer and then my main computer, and I have one Stream Deck hooked up to each.
Yeah, I have two machines that I'm trying to set up, and so this one's the Zoom machine. Actually, is there sockets? Do I have to put those sockets in, or I should put the OSC socket in, or just check them all off? Or I'm really in basic questions. I'm sorry for interrupting, and I won't,
So I don't know from sockets that I don't know.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for the first answer. Then,
and also Marty is pointing out that Companion does not have a native Zoom app. So if you want to control Zoom, not using ZoomOSC, that's not going to work very well. All right, I know we want to build these pages, but we've got people raising their hands right and left. So Mike and then Ward, and Ward, I want to hear how you're doing it.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I wasn't on earlier. If you did say hi to me, But I just wanted to give you an FYI what I ran into today. After getting Jeff's email going and I installed the beta, what ended up happening with my Stream Deck and my X keys, because I have both, and they both can be connected and Companion will see both. What ended up happening is the beta actually would not see my physical Stream Deck and my physical X key units. I had to go to the dev, so the experimental version that's currently there. And now I just upgraded that within the last few minutes and everything is functional now. So just wanted to give a heads up on that. If anybody did do the beta, I did lose my Stream Deck, the physical Stream Deck.
Have you toggled on and off? So if you go into connections, one of the really beautiful things, by the way, about 3.0 is that they've built in all of these nice toggles here. Now, there was always an enable disable button here, but now you can actually, if you have a button built, you can actually toggle individual actions on each button, which is really, really nice. But if you go into connections, I find very often when I'm not connected, if I just toggle this off and on, that fixes it. The other thing I found recently is that for whatever reason, my gallery page, where I've brought in gallery buttons, so gallery position, doesn't load when I join a meeting. My list page does. So when I switch to my list page, I see everyone. But in order to get those folks on my gallery page, I have to first see them in list view. So there's some quirky things going on here, no doubt.
So I just wanted to add too that during the troubleshooting that I ended up doing was I ended up turning on the Stream Deck app to make sure that it wasn't conflicting. And the beta actually told me that this Companion, that the Stream Deck app was on, and to turn it off in the connections. It actually came up as a caution, a warning at the top. So I turned that off. So I knew that that wasn't the problem. And then when I did upgrade to the dev version, and again, I haven't rebooted because I've been in the meeting the whole time, and I've installed the dev version, and it went in, and all the units came up, and all my buttons are as they were in my 2.41 version. I haven't updated that to 2.42 yet.
Interesting. Ward, do you
And
want
again,
to tell us?
just to add that I am on PC.
That's important, actually. Thank you. Ward, do you want to share how you're using them in parallel?
Yeah, I'm another PC user, and I use Companion for buttons that I need Companion, and then I can use all of the native plugins that are built for the Stream Deck app whenever I need to. I use it constantly for just Windows navigation.
So is this a PC thing, you think, versus Mac? Maybe on the Mac they can't work in parallel?
It just anytime you want a Stream Deck button, there's a Companion plugin.
Oh, but no, so you're not using, right, but that's not using them in parallel. When we say using them in parallel, what we mean is you're using the Stream Deck app and the Companion app. What you're doing is just using the Companion app with the Stream Deck plugin.
No, I'm just using the Stream Deck app.
It's the other direction.
You're using a Stream Deck app with the
app
Companion
pulling in
plugin. Yes,
buttons, yeah.
you can do that also. Absolutely.
And then I just bring in button by button whenever I need it. And I can get the best of both worlds in terms of, bringing in the capacities for the Stream Deck or for Companion. But for those things that the Companion doesn't do, I can run on my desktop, and then I have it all set so that for Windows navigation, I don't have to sort of look at my keyboard. I've got the buttons, I lay it flat, and I've got all the button positions memorized, so I can just go through and do a fair bit of work on Windows, but use the Stream Deck app as my main interface.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. So there is both a Stream Deck plugin for Companion and a Companion plugin, as it were, for Stream Deck. Fantastic. Thank you. Justin.
Just to tag onto this a little bit, the spot where this falls apart for what Ward was talking about is when you have two Stream Decks that you want to have in Companion. 'Cause with two stream decks and you change the page on one, it changes the page on the other, which really defeats the purpose of having two because they don't work independently. That's the point you need to let Companion take over if you want both stream decks to work independently. If you just have one, totally can work with the way Ward explained in there.
That's great. Thank you. All right, Jeff, should we build some stuff out here? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's build out
Okay.
maybe how many on video? Maybe eight gallery, the first 8 gallery positions first.
Okay, you got it. So up at the top here, you just click on a button. These are pre-done on every screen. There's an up page number and down. You can delete them if you want. I'm just going to leave them for now. If you want to use create your own text strings, your own actions, you can click regular button, but there is a beautiful set of presets built right in here. And so you can see what I've got here is select from participants, select from gallery. Let's just start there. That's how you select the people that you want to do actions on. So we're going to choose select from gallery. And then you can see that I've got all these different participants, goes up to 49 because that's the maximum number you can have on any gallery view. And because I'm currently connected to this meeting, it actually is pulling everyone's names in. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag these into these positions. 4, and then I'll do another row down here, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So now I've got these buttons. Let me actually, let me add real quick so I can get to this page on the stream deck so I can show it to you. I'm going to add a set serial number to page, and I want it to go to page 7. Okay. Page 7. Okay. So now if I press this button on my stream deck, it should take me to that page. Did I do it wrong?
Well, it won't do it in that. It won't do it in your.
Oh no, you're right. Sorry, it did work. It just
That's
it did it on my stream deck. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I've got these folks here, and all this is going to do when I press them, it's literally just going to select them. So I just pressed on Justin James. It does nothing other than select him, and I get some.
But why? But why does it? I mean, it just selects them is actually part of what came with that preset. Otherwise, it would do nothing. Right. So
Well, there are a few things it does. So first, it gives me their name.
Yeah.
Right. So I know who's in gallery position 1. Second, it allows me by clicking the button to select them. Third, it gives me feedback. So if Justin were to raise his hand right now, you would see a little hand pop up on, oh, he moved. Where did he move? That's interesting. Did he raise his hand? He did.
Justin's hand is raised.
Yeah, but why did he? That's so interesting. Look where he moved. He moved to position 13 when his hand was raised.
Does it have to do whether it's you assigned it fixed or it's automatically shifting?
No, it shouldn't. That is really interesting, though.
Well, that's, those are some of the data update, challenges on this beta right now. I mean, sometimes it's right in there, sometimes it's not. But let's keep going on that page. And
yeah, okay. So
the thing about it is this preset, it just now is your ISO in gallery view? Because that's super important.
You know what?
For it to stay updated.
No, you're absolutely right. So
it
the
gallery
shifted, and I didn't check it, and you're right.
Yeah, the preset. If you click on that first button, now highlight the button text over on the right side.
Yep.
The reason I just want to get kind of granular here is the reason it's showing Justin's name is because the variable that keeps track of the name that's currently in that button position happens to be Justin. Now it might change. And Justin, if you're listening, if you can lower your hand, he'll move, and now it's David again. And this is all based on David's ISO computer's gallery view. It may not be the same for yours. I mean, when a hand's raised, it's the same because everybody sees that top left position for a raised hand, but it's always just saying, hey, I'll display whoever is in that gallery position. So do this, David. You're in gallery view. You are the host as well. You have the ability to drag and drop tiles of people. Go ahead and tell us who you're going to move to position 1, for instance.
Yeah, so we need to first unspotlight because you can't do this when someone is spotlighted, whatever the word is. All right, let me jump back over.
What are the blue and red on some names and white on the rest?
Right, so we'll get to that in a second.
We'll get there, yeah.
So I'm going to move Mike up to the first position. And there you go. So yes, gallery view. If you select participants by gallery, let me just jump back over here so we can see it again. Select from gallery, then this is going to be responsive to where they are in the gallery. So to your question about the colors, that's all feedback. So there are a few different things that you can adjust here. Number one, you can change the text that's on the button. And for these, you really won't want to do that because part of the whole point is to have the person's name on there. You can adjust the size, the color, the background, all that other good stuff. There is a top bar, which will show you what position you're in. I like to turn that off. So then there's the relative delays that Jeff was talking about earlier, auto progress step, which we'll talk about in a second, and enable rotary actions. So here are the steps and the actions. So step 1, I have one action, and the action is position 1, toggle, which means either select or deselect that person. So if I press Mike, I've selected him, and now if I press it again, it should, wait, I'm probably in no, I'm in single this time. So it should have unselected him.
Are you in gallery again?
I'm sorry? Who was that?
Is your ISO in gallery again?
No, it is in gallery, yeah. Oh well. So the colors though come from the feedback right over here. And these are all built in. You don't have to do any of this. So you can see that if gallery position 1 has their mic live, then their background colors could be red. So Jeff, his mic is open, at least in Zoom, his mic is open. And so that's why it's red. The active speaker is going to be blue. If your hand is raised, there's a little ping of a hand raise. And then when you're selected, you turn yellow. So that's why if I select myself and then Mike, that's why that yellow is changing. And you can see David, how did I just raise my hand on ZoomISO? Look at that. My ZoomISO hand is raised, but I didn't raise it.
That's actually a bug that we've let them know about.
Oh, that's that bug, the hand raise bug. Right. I remember.
So when I lower my hand, I am in position. I'm currently in position 4, right? And I raise my hand, and my label moves over. Somebody else did it at the same time. Did something at the same time that caused it to work that time. Because what it does is it puts my hand up on my initial position, but yet it moves my label to the top left, which is what Zoom is doing. And then other things changing from speaker view to gallery view will like force the refresh and it'll fix it. So they're working on fixing that. That's just a known issue right now. But so I was gonna add a little bit more here. We talked about kind of moving things around, and you did that. You could move tiles, and it's very dynamic. It's all about, the code is saying, hey, whoever's in this position, however they get there, I'll display them to you. And if you're in a meeting, I don't know if you can do this on the fly, David, or not, but if you could show us your ISO, is this all the same machine? Can we see your ISO gallery also, kind of half and half? There we go. So his gallery happens to be, so turn off the chat and participants, and just so it gives us more screen real estate there, and then widen your window, widen your gallery, because commonly we end up with kind of a full screen Zoom window and so forth. So everybody fits here. It's not a large meeting. We've got 19 in here and everybody fits on the window. Now shrink that gallery down to like 2 or 3 people wide. Narrow it down. There you go. So you got 2 wide, and you can make it tall if you want, but not too tall. I want we can force it into a multi-paging gallery view. And so if you as you change pages, we're still on the gallery. I don't know why. It should be updating and refreshing those names as you're doing that.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because
No, it
you're still
should.
in gallery position 1.
Well, I know I am, and that would remain true. Go ahead and page that again.
Because I'm not changing who's in gallery positions. I'm just changing my view of gallery positions.
But this was where I was trying to take this conversation, is this single Stream Deck page with 8 buttons, 4 wide, 2 high. If it's all about position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. If your gallery, make your gallery 4 wide and 2 high right now, David, just to match the Stream Deck. Okay, so we're a match. So position 1 is position 1. Who's there? David Paskin. Go to the next page in the gallery. Position 1 is now, I can't see the name.
Bobby.
But that's position 9.
Bobby. No, it's not position 9. On this, in the Zoom client, in this gallery view, that is still position 1. What's not working at the moment, if I showed you this in 2.4.1, his red David button would change to Bobby's name, and the next page would change to that so every page of the gallery is still, to the Stream Deck, considered position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It just has new names in it, and that's how you can page through. And there's actually commands, like you could build 2 buttons, next page, next page, next page, on your Stream Deck, to change the pages of the gallery in it, and that's how you drive through the gallery with the names staying updated. Although
So I do something like that. I do something like that with my list view. Right. So if I press the next button on the list view, well, the previous button, you can see that the names are changing and it's scrolling through all the names. Now, what's interesting about this is that it doesn't give you, so I have 15 on this page. It doesn't give you 15 and then, if there are 19 people in the meeting, just 4 on the next page. It's just cycling the people higher and higher in the list, which is a little annoying because that means everyone's constantly moving around and it's hard to find people. But that's why you have gallery view.
Yeah, but there's a fix coming for this though too. Is there's a request to be able to reset back to kind of the 0 index, if you will, so that you can, it's an offset. So, if you have how many, 5, 10, 15 buttons, only if your total attendance divided by 15 would you ever end up with the first person as in the first slot again after you've rotated them through. And so you end up with this offset. They're going to give us the ability to reset that so that you can kind of start back at the top number one position again.
Which is sort of important because in gallery view, people are jumping around based on their hand movements, if they have their hand raised, based on if they're speaking or if their mic is on. So having the list view where names are persistently in the same spot is important.
So if we go back to the page you're building and just, we'll keep building on this, but we'll keep it I really urging to keep it simple. And that is, hey, if I see a name, what do I want to do with them? I want to mute them. So show us how to make that. Now, let me throw in here. It will be beneficial for you to think and configure in this method. And it's the workflow that Andy and his team had in mind with this release moving forward. And it is display who's in your meeting, give you the ability to select those that you wish to take action on. And so you see them, you select either that one person or multiple people, and then you decide what do you want to do with them. And so it's a select and execute. Now, the kind of something in the middle maybe, but you can go select this group of people and add them to this group. It's a definable group, and they actually stay there until you change it or clear that group, but you make them members of a group. Why? Because over the next 4 hours in this event, those are your panelists, or those are the people you're going to have to be doing things to. But if you've got 1,000 people in the meeting and you lose them in the gallery or participants list or whatnot, it's a pain in the rear to find them, to get them, spot lit or whatnot real quick. And so you can add them to a group, and then you can act on the group. So you could have a group called panel 1, a group called panel 2, a group called panel 3, and you can select these 4 people, add them to group 1, select these 4 people, add them group 1, panel 1, these 4 to panel 2, these 4 to panel 3. Now you have your panels all defined for the rest of the show, and who cares about everybody else? Manage mics or lock them down, whatever. And now when it's time for panel 1, instead of having to select those 4 panelists and spotlight them, you can just select that group that you named panelists, or group 1, Group 1 is now unusable. Group 1 will automatically be populated with your host and co-host.
Actually, no, there's an update to that, Jeff. So now the host group is separate from groups 1 and groups 2. So there is, so if we go into the manage selection of groups, you've got group hosts, group 1 and group 2. So they actually separated out in the latest beta, which is nice. So
they didn't burn group 1.
Right.
I mean, I missed that.
So if I go into my host group, what I've called host, this is my host group. Everybody who has co-host is automatically in here. And if I were to take co-host away from someone, they would disappear from this group. So I could very quickly grab a bunch of people here. I'm going to clear selections. I'm going to grab 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to throw them up on stage. And there you go. So now what happens with group 1 and 2? You can do the same thing with group 1 and 2. And my particular workflow here is that, so I'm on I'm going to multi-select 1, 2, 3 people. I press group 1, which will take me to that page, and then I press the same button again. I have to get them over here so you can see it, and add to group 1, and then they're in there. Now I can select group 1, and I screwed up. This should be I I don't have a select button here, but I should. A select group one and then throw them up on stage. Let me actually do that while we're here. So manage selections from group. I'm going to select group one. I'll put it right there. So now if I click that button, they're all selected and I can, with one button press, throw them up on stage. One of the ISO didn't go up because the camera isn't on.
And you also unmuted us. David, one question as I'm unmuted right now. The new functionality of the modules comes with updates of the companion modules each time, yes? So if liminal adds functionality, it gets added into the next version of companion. And then I don't have to like reinstall the ISO instance, but it has the functionality with the new companion, right?
Well, that's probably a Justin question, but my understanding is that yes, but you do, with every beta, I found you do need to sort of rebuild your buttons because there's new functionality added. Is that a fair statement, Justin, or?
It is
Jeff?
a fair statement because it's in the middle of development right now, and Jeffrey and myself are moving things around, doing things, and they're mainly Jeffrey. As that stuff happens, you'll see on any of the buttons that we've been building, it has the built-in string of where the preset was. So if we move any of those presets since the last time you built the button, you'll have to rebuild that particular button. Now, with that said, I have seen stuff in Companion where they have the ability to do upgrade scripts. So I asked Jeffrey earlier, he's obviously sleeping right now because he's many hours ahead and it's the middle of the night. But I asked him, is there a plan to do an upgrade script or anything? Because that would be nice to not have to rebuild everything from 2.4, because a lot of us have pretty detailed configs. But today, you kind of have to rebuild the buttons in 3 if they've moved.
Abby, thank you.
Should we keep building here? Select group 2. I'm just realizing that as I was playing, I screwed up all my buttons.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things. My teaching methodology is from the basics, making 0 assumptions forward, and that is just like one small nugget at a time. It's not fast, but it's the same thing that I've gone through myself this last week or so. David Paskin's gone through it as well. Is you do this and you think this, and then you do this and you think this, and I want to, you know, like going into groups is kind of out there. I mean, I would rather somebody say, wouldn't it be easier if you could do this instead? And that becomes the natural transition, because now we know the audience is ready to go there because they're the ones thinking it. And so I'm thinking a button, let's go. I mean, because some people just aren't even like familiar with Companion. You know, what are actions? And then, you know, he showed the feedback. You know, it's like, hey, when the mic's open, I want to be able to see something that indicates that, and that's feedback. You know, and then multiple actions. And you know, we've talked about it, but and then you know, the other thing is adding them, because when you add an action, all of the first door open is like the entire library from all your vendors. How do you find what you're looking for? You know, and then little things now that we can copy and paste. Companion 3 lets us duplicate actions. They never ever used to do that before. It was total pain in the butt. They went from not helping you at all to then they had a recently used drop down, and now you can actually duplicate it, because especially in ZoomOSC, they have like things you can do to users, mute them, you know, spotlight them, you know, this whole list. It's the same action, but you have to go, this one instance of that action is to mute them, but you need 3 more actions to select, you know, 3 more options. And so you can just dupe it, and then just change the choice. And so now you have 4 full actions, they're unique by what you want to accomplish. So I just, you know, just kind of the grounding basics, and it's the kitchen. I am struggling with it's the kitchen. We've always been an open discussion forum, but this is the second time with, you know, especially with Companion, I feel like we get pulled and we get distracted really, really fast. And I want to be able to walk away feeling like we made a significant move from the ground up, and the greater audience is walking away with a whole lot more workable knowledge that they can go, you know, run with and test with as a result. So, because there's a lot in Companion now that it never used to have. So I would keep going on, you know, this gallery page, and let's make a button do one thing, and then two things, and then let's do those things to two people and show them how that can be done, you know, and just like progressively grow ourselves. Does that sound fair?
We can do that. All right. So give me one moment here while I get these out of the way.
Sounds like you're going to need more than one meeting.
You think? This has taken me a year and I barely even understand it. Okay. So I'm going to find myself and gallery view, and I'm going to spotlight myself. All right. That did not work. Oh, because again, I'm on.
But it looks pretty.
Oh, thanks. I really
You
need to
spotlight
figure
me.
this out, though. There we go. I really need to figure this out. My workflow. Okay. So let me go back to page 7. All right. So we've got our 8 folks here. I'm starting to think I should just turn off that multi-select. All right. Got our 8 folks here. So now let's throw in an action. So I'm going to go back over to the ZoomOSC ISO module, the preset rather. These 2 at the top are my select. Manage selection of participants. That's about, I think it's like multi or single selection or select by name. We're not going to use that. Manage selection of groups. We're not going to get into groups yet. Select hosts, participants. This is all selecting. Now we get to the actions: pin, spotlight, and view actions, video, audio actions, output actions, reaction and name actions, all these different things. So let's just jump into video, audio. You can see I can request people turn their video on, video off, toggle their video state, or mute. So I'm just going to grab the mute button. I'm going to drag it in here. All right, so now we've got a button. If I click on that, I'll be able to see all the detail here. So you can see the button is called mute. The step, and there's only one step here, which is essentially the action, without any delay, is mute. And now over here, and this is really important, this is the username. Keep blank when you pre-select. So because we set these buttons up over here, and we're going to be pre-selecting them, that means that I want to leave this blank. Now, if I wanted to, if I knew, you know, someone's name, like for example, I know that my name in this meeting is David Paskin. So I can type that in there, and then if I press the button, it should so there you go. So it was able to mute me, but if I leave it blank, then whoever I press over here, and I'll just press myself, so I've selected myself, now I press mute.
You're still muted.
Sorry. So it's doing just one action and there's no feedback in there. If I want to, I could add multiple actions to this.
And
But
if
we're
you
not gonna
didn't
get there yet.
select anybody at all, hitting mute would do absolutely nothing, right?
Right.
Because it's dependent on at least one or more being selected. Okay, cool.
So no one is selected right now. I can press mute all I want and nothing's happening. So let's do another one. Let's go back into presets, ZoomISO. Let's do
Well, can we do the opposite? Can you change the
Unmute?
mute to an unmute and a spot plus a spotlight? So you're kind of bringing them on stage.
Sure. All right. So let's start with unmute, because we want someone to be unmuted before they we don't want someone sitting on stage. I learned this from Jeff. We don't want someone up on stage who can't speak. That's very awkward. So I'm going to drag unmute in. And now if I click on it, I'll be able to see all the information. Again, I want that username to be blank. But now what I can do is I can add an action. So down here, I can click right in there, and I can just start typing if I want, or I can go over here and browse. I'm going to go ahead and just start typing Spotlight. Now, I will say this is probably a little easier for me because I only have the OSC and ISO module installed. Whereas Jeff has a whole bunch of stuff. It might be easier to do the browse way, but
I actually I type.
You type also?
Once you get familiar with like the general term you're looking for,
yeah,
it works great. Typing's fast.
So Spotlight, and now we talked before about those delays. So I'm going to put a 100 millisecond delay, and I'm going to click up here on relative delay. Although I truly don't really need to because there's only 2 actions here. So now if I select someone and I unmute them, I'm going to choose Tamara, if that's okay. So Tamara, I'm going to choose you. I'm going to click unmute. She should be unmuted and she should be spotlit.
Are you sharing or you're spotlit right now? It didn't replace your spotlight.
Yeah, so hold on. Let me make sure that I still am in gallery mode. So that should have worked. Let me check. Let's check that button and see what I did wrong there. So we've got spotlight, unmute. Oh, now it worked. I think I didn't press the button hard enough. Sorry. So Tamara is now unmuted and spotlit.
Nice.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
And I can do the same for myself.
So
and if you're already unmuted, by the way, this is not a toggle. So it's not if they're muted, unmute, and if they're unmuted, mute. This is just unmute.
Now, so let me add a touch more to that. I run meetings. I'll do it this weekend, with like 900 people in it. So they're locked down, right? When they arrive, they're muted. Participants are not allowed to unmute themselves. And that's the way it stays the entire 2-hour meeting. But the meeting does have the primary speaker, and then I bring people up and I bring people up. And it's like, well, how do you get them unmuted? As long as the host requests in that mode, as long as it's the host asking you to unmute, if you answer yes, you will unmute. And so programming it in Companion to unmute, if it's in a locked down environment and it's a send request to unmute, that if you did that with your mouse in Zoom, it would say send request to unmute. That's the same exact thing as what your program that you just wrote, David, will do. You're saying unmute. Don't think that, well, you can't. I've got them locked down. It's not true. It'll just send them the pop-up requests that want you to unmute. They answer yes, bingo, and away they go. So why don't we add one more action? I think it's realistic. Tamara with a raised hand. So she's the next one up because she has her hand raised, except Lois beat her to it. So you can do Lois instead. That's fine. Lois is muted. She's got a raised hand and she needs to be spotlit. So,
all right. So let's build a new button here. And click there. I'm going to go to presets. Again, I'll start with video audio actions. I'm going to unmute. So that's how I start building my button. And then I can add more actions here. So now the latest one that you've done pops up by default. So I can go ahead and spotlight. I can throw in a delay. And since I'm going to have multiple actions here, I'll put that relative delay on. And now I can also type in lower hand.
Yep.
And add another 100 millisecond delay there. And now what I may want to do, because OSC needs to be in gallery view, is I may also want to just make sure that set gallery view is built into this also.
Yeah. So it forces your ISO machine back to
Right.
gallery view. It won't
the-
affect the spotlight. It'll just bring you
Correct.
back in
And the
gallery view.
last thing that I would add in, as I mentioned before, is I would unselect. So I want to clear, where is it here? It's clear participants, means basically
remove all the spotlights.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would, no, not remove the spotlights. No, clear participants is if
Oh,
they
the
are,
selections.
if they've been
Yeah,
selected, right.
That's right.
So, and I'll add another one here. Okay, so we've got now a button that should, when I choose Lois, it should unmute her, spotlight her, lower her hand, and then you won't be able to see it, but on my end, it'll set my gallery view if it changes, and it'll clear the selection. So you'll see, if you can look at mine at the same time, you'll see that the yellow go away.
It'll be a
David,
Lois is yellow. Yeah, there you go.
if you take an add spotlight instead for a spotlight, we can see it in your.
You want to do
Stream
add
Deck.
spotlight instead?
Well,
Sure.
we want to see Lois get. Well, you can add a second spotlight if you want, so we can see it.
Right, but what he's saying is that if I take out that spotlight and instead I just do, instead of spotlight, I do add spotlight, then I won't disappear from the spotlight.
Yeah. See, and that's all event based, right? Like the author that I do this show with this weekend, she can't go away. So I can't do a replace spotlight. I need to leave her and just add a spotlight versus a kind of wipe and rebuild. But yeah, you can do it either way. I mean,
Right,
everything's
and so
available.
that's why on my pages I actually have 3 buttons. I've got on stage, which just adds spotlight, off stage, which removes spotlight but not clear spotlight. Full spot is just put them up all by themselves, and then clear spot is get rid of it altogether. All right, so let's press the Lois button and see what happens. Lois, you ready? Here we go. Don't unmute yourself. Lois is selected, and
Okay, so my question is,
Oh no, this was just a trial. This isn't like for real.
Jeff,
you
I
don't
was-
actually get to
I
talk.
put up my hand to ask a question about what you said, so I should be able to ask it.
No, I'm messing with
Oh,
you.
come
You
on.
know that.
It's a reasonable question.
Sure.
Once you have, as your host, you have pushed that button for someone to say unmute, and they get that message saying, "Do you want to unmute?" If they don't do anything, how long do they have the option of accepting that unmute?
Well,
that prompt will stay up on your screen until you do something with
it'll
it.
stay on their screen forever.
Right.
And if so I've started doing other things. So I've got a button that lets me, like, if I know the next 2 people who are up, and their cameras are off, but their hands are raised. So they've made it clear they want to speak to this author, but their camera's off, which means I can't spotlight them. And so I select those camera off people and I touch this button and it just says request video on. And so now I've sent them the message and then their cameras pop up. If their camera doesn't pop up, they won't get called on, period. And so, but I can send that request, and then it's a decision making where it's super cool that we can go boom, 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 boom through these actions. It may not be practical. What if, like Lois said, what if they don't respond to the unmute, right? And if they don't respond to that, can you stop from the spotlight? Like, I put a 3-second pause in my list of actions. I say unmute, wait 3 seconds, then spotlight. And I don't really have a way to cancel that, so I'm going to end up spotlighting a muted person if they never actually respond, which could end up being an issue. And I would have to change kind of my ways, which would be, I'd have to touch multiple things, and I wouldn't do the spotlight portion until I could see that they responded to the unmute. So it's just all that flexibility and event by event changes, and Sometimes you can make it very automated. Sometimes you have to press more buttons and still get the job done. But anyways, but kind of cool. You got what, three things. I mean, Tamara's there with a hand up. Do it on Tamara now because it's the same exact process. Unmute, lower her hand. She's unmuted, her hand's down, and she's spotlit. So, I mean, it's super powerful.
So I have a quick question.
Do it.
Just for the challenged like me. So I'm clear. If David, your on stage button, you select someone, you press on stage, and it does those actions. It spotlights them, takes their hand down, does whatever it does. Then I've spoken, and is your off stage button doing the reverse of that? So it's like, shutting me back up. And
essentially.
So to run that, so we're in, I'm up, I'm talking. To shut me up, you would select me again and then select your off stage button.
Exactly. And Scott actually says that in his buttons, he keeps them selected so that after spotlighting them, so that then he can easily unspotlight. The reason I don't do that is because I'm very often popping one person, two people up, then one person off. And so I want to be able to actually really pick. But so if you look at my on stage button, I've got I've got lower hand, unmute, add spotlight, set gallery view, and clear participants. If you look at my on stage, I've got unspotlight, mute, set gallery view, clear participants. So the only one that isn't there is the hand raise, because by the time they've once I put them up on stage, their hand isn't up anymore. So yeah, it's essentially the reverse.
Remind me again what clear participants does.
So clear participants is let me get to this page so that I can.
I know y'all are smarter than I am, but I'm learning.
What page am I on? Oh, I'm on page 3. Okay. So, no, I'm not. I'm on page 2. I have no idea what page I'm on. Oh, I'm on the host page. Sorry. So, if I select someone, clear selections will unselect them.
Okay, got it.
Right. So if I want to do multi, and then clear selections will deselect them. And that was the user error that I was doing before, is that I didn't have clear selection built into these buttons. So I was pressing it, and then the people that were selected were still selected, and I was pressing something else.
Okay, got it.
So that's where my problem was.
Well, you can spotlight someone else.
So just as a note, here's my Mac screen too. I've got data. And so just as a note, I downloaded today's beta 3.0 plus 5619. So 5619. No. Today's is 5627. I lost all data feeds, and so I rolled back to last night's, which was in my case 5619, and I'm back up. I've got a data feed.
There's one in
David,
between.
Yeah, you're in between.
5624.
You're at so 19 to 24 works, we know, but 27 or somewhere between 25, 6, and 7, there's a data breakage. And just as a note, if you download
right now you don't have the possibility to choose from one of the betas, right? They offer only one beta and one experimental.
The only reason I could roll back is I don't delete them out of my downloads folder, and so I could reinstall that. Yeah, and that's a problem. I mean, I really liked being able to choose which one.
Yeah, me too. Especially when there is like one new module thing you want to have, but not all the other experimental things that follow after this.
Yeah.
They say it's coming back. So, and yes, Justin, we should absolutely bulk request that clear participants be renamed to clear selection. It was, I believe, and they changed it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why.
Well,
they did that.
and I don't know. I mean, I'd get nitpicky, and instead of clear selection, I'd say clear selected, right? Because it's, one or many, so clear selected, but or selections, either one of those would work. But you're right. There's small terminology, tweaks, and they get fixed really fast. So I think that was a great example. So David, I'm trying to remember, like progressively.
I actually, I have a hard stop in about 2 minutes. So
Yeah, well, I've got data, so I guess I can start showing and sharing as well as kind of continuing to build. So I super appreciate you jumping in on that on the fly. I didn't suspect I was going to have to do that, but so I think this page is so you look at this. I selected and one of them turned yellow, the first one, and I'm a total really try to help people understand troubleshooting too, like what's working, why is it working, what's not working, and why. And so this is actually, I can tell this is an old button just based on the actions that are there. So I'd have to build this out. This old code, but may I just pause and see, is there anybody there out here that have some juices flowing about, I wonder if I could do this or that. Any thoughts like that we can literally just kind of try to build to as a response if we feel like it's either doable or potentially doable? No.
You have two hands up here.
Scott, there we go.
I had a question just for David before he jumps off. If I were to multi-select like 3 people and wanted to add spotlight for all of them, will it remember who I selected first, who I selected second, and who I selected third, and then put them spotlighted in that order? Or would I have to like put delays in for that?
So I'm not sure delays would help, but that's a really great question.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's find out.
I know that it does build them in order. So the order in which you select will be, the order it spotlights them. Delays won't help because it's only a single command that gets sent. And so you don't have the opportunity to inject delays between it. That's all up to the Zoom SDK. But yeah, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I'll let David run some examples of order, but I'm confident that it does the order.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to go into my list view, and I will go ahead and multi-select Andre, Scott, and John. And so I did it in that order. I did Andre, Scott, and John. And now I'm just going to press my on stage button, which is add spotlight.
John doesn't have a camera on.
Okay. So that was a bad example. So let me, let's get out of that. Let me clear all the selections. So I'll do Hasma because he has a camera on, myself, and Jeff, and Scott. So I got 4 people that I've selected. So I did Hasmuk, David, Jeff, Scott. That was the order that I pressed them. So I guess Hasmuk doesn't have his thing on. So Hasmuk, David. So it did not do it from left to right, at least in the order that I pressed them.
Try to getting this. Let's
Yep.
keep
So I'm
the
going to press,
videos out.
I'm going to press just you and me. So Jeff and me. Actually, let me clear the spotlight first. And now I'm going to throw the two of us up on stage. Jeff and me. Now let me press the other way. Clear the spot. Me and Jeff. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something to think about during your builds. Like, you know, if you had a side by side and you had, it makes a difference between if you drop the left side or drop the right side. Like they're the one of the two getting removed. And then you're going to add, if they were in the number 2 slot, they're going to end up in the number 1 slot. Is that where you want the new guy coming in? Right. And or should you wipe everything and put them both in? One is the same person that was just there, but they ended up on the left side where you wanted them because you wiped and respotted versus just added the one extra.
If you had 2 spotlights up and then you just, instead of add spotlight, pick 2 people and hit spotlight, would it reverse the order? If there's 2 spotlights up, left, right, you wanted to go right, left.
All right. So I chose Jeff and David, and I'm going to put them both on stage in that order. Now I'm going to press David and Jeff. And what did you want me to do?
Spotlight versus add spotlight.
Okay. So it takes the first person. The first person that was pressed is who gets full spotlighted.
Well, no, we don't want a full spotlight.
Well, there's
replace
only
2 for 2.
So then that's your only options are spotlight or add spotlight.
Yeah, but a spotlight should be able to do multi-selected people. It replaces the spotlight with the next individual.
Right. So
I was under the impression the individual or the next selections.
Yeah. So it's not doing that. So if I select myself and then Jeff.
You first have to do a clear spotlight.
Right. So clear. Now I'm going to do Jeff and David in that order. I'm going to click full spotlight and it just puts Jeff in there. Whereas if I do Jeff and David add spotlight, it's going to build the scene.
Yeah.
But if you add spotlight and it was Justin who was in there versus me, we would now have Justin, Jeff, and David because it was additive to what was existing. There was no.
But he cleared.
So right now there are 2 people. If I click on Justin and I add and I say add spotlight, he'll come up.
Correct.
If I click Justin again and I click spotlight, he's going to take over.
Yeah, because I'm often in a situation where you want to keep the host on the left, right? And then the people who are asking questions to be on the right. So it would be, I would want a situation where I would always spotlight Jeff first and then the next person.
So then what I would do for that is I would do, let's say Jeff is our host. So Jeff and David, let's put them up on stage, right? Jeff is first and then me. Okay. Now I'm going to change me. So I'm going to say Jeff and Justin, and I'm going to click on stage. Now see, it didn't take me away.
You didn't clear.
No, I don't want to clear. He doesn't want to clear.
So, yeah, we need to dig into this because to me, this behavior is reportable if it's really the behavior. Because, like, now that I've got some data, I'm going to spotlight Lois. Like that, right?
One idea. So David, if you leave Jeff spotlighted and like unspot yourself and spot Justin, then you get this replacement of keeping the host and changing the speaker.
So you want Jeff spotlight, and then what?
Yeah, Jeff and yourself. And Justin asked to Scott asked to replace the new guest and keep the host. Yeah. So you could unspot yourself and add spot.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I could do.
Yeah.
So I took a quick glance at the code, and the code for this actually does have Spotlight being a single user action.
Yeah.
So it's
See, that's
always going to take.
this is
action
why
against
it's a
one person.
problem though, because in the action itself, it says exactly what all the other multi-selectable fields are: username, or in parentheses, keep blank when you pre-select. So it gives you the illusion that it's not going to, it gives you the illusion that it will act on multiple selections. And it needs to be able to do that, because that's the quick, easy way to say, hey, I want to take these next two people and spotlight just them. Wipe, basically what it does is it wipes and then it multi-spotlights. And I mean, because it's right now that action in companion, that's an illusion, because there's no indication that that's a single selection.
Yes.
Or
And if you look at the
Jeff-
if you look at the ZoomOSC documentation, actually does mention it's a single user.
Yeah, as I remember from the beginning of OSC, it was always Spotlight was a single user command. It was always we replace what was there before, and the
Yeah,
other thing
but
was
when
like
you-
clear or add Spotlight. Usually, you first had to clear.
Can you do a
So-
group?
It would be
Well,
easy enough to
yes.
just put a clear spotlight 10 milliseconds before the spotlight commands, in one button, really.
Yeah, but you could also, like Lois suggested, take a group
Well, I
and
mean,
replace.
that's the whole concept
Yeah.
here, is to build certain groups, panels, and be able to replace this panel with that panel. So group one is this group of people, group two is that group of people, and you should be able to spotlight group two as group one wraps things up with just a push of a button.
It would be nice to know that
Spotlight.
you could pre-select the order of that group based on how it's listed in the group. So if I say I want a group of 4, Jeff's 1, Justin's 2, and for each group,
a
nice to-
group. So in a, here, let me change my screen. In a group, it's just kind of small. If we can drop the Justin spotlight and make it a little bigger. These are 6 buttons of gallery position. These are 6 buttons of a group. So group, and it's group 2. They're all group 2, but it's position 1, position 2, position 3. Point being, there is a known order, and that known order is absolutely referenceable. So, to put it to the test would be, if we add, so if I'm take my mouse over there and do this, if I said Lois and then I don't want to do myself, David and Scott, and I add them to group 2, that's the order that they go in. I don't have this programmed to spotlight group 2, but I certainly could. I can take this spotlight. Should be a preset for it, right? Spotlight. The selected. Add clear, select 3. I'm trying to see if there's anything built here to. I don't know that I've spotlighted a group quite yet. Spotlight and view, toggle. Got spotlight. Not sure on the spotlight. It's
Are you just
already
wanting
the
to select the
spot.
whole group at once and then click
Yeah,
spotlight?
yeah. I just want to reference the group to spotlight. So the
believe-
press action is to.
I don't believe that there's a preset for it, but I believe the kind of the way is just in general is you select the people, so you'd select the group and then click the action. Because a group's no different than just selecting a user.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So is a username, can a username be a group name? But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. This is one of those variable things. It's like I would attempt to put the name of the variable for group 2 in there, but I don't think that's going to work, but it might.
You have a select group 2 button on your black panel.
Yeah. So yeah. No, you're right.
And you have a
Okay.
spotlight button on your black panel.
Well, I just built that, and that's going to be based on selection. So you're right. So the number in the parentheses are the number of members of the group. So again, the order real quick is Lois, David, Scott. I'm going to click on that and simulate clicking on the button. Now it's selected because the left side again is gallery. The right side is they're members of the group. Those are the same people. All they're double highlighted. And then on the bottom is actually the participant ID, kind of the order in which they arrived in the meeting. So that's why they're all kind of lighting up on that. They're selected. And so what it did was when I said select group 2, it selected all 3 people, right? Not just a group, but the three members of that group. And at that point, I'll hit spotlight and test.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Not
Jeff, you're
getting-
co-host again. You're a host again. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And where's my? Oh, you know why? Yeah. Hang on. Well, since I'm host, I can give my ISO machine. When I reinstalled, I left the meeting and came back and never gave myself the power to do anything here. So now I'm co-host. All right. So now I should be able to. It's rebuilding the data. All right. So I should be able to take Lois, Justin, Mike, add to group 2, select group 2, and spotlight. Now what it did was it made it additive, right? Versus dropping what was there and rebuilding. So let me trace down.
Yes,
Just
as you took the
review.
add spotlight command and not the spotlight command.
Yeah, it applied add spotlight. Yeah, oh yeah, and that's what I have there is add spotlight.
So to make it do what you
So-
want to do, in that add spotlight right before it, put a clear participants command in there.
Well,
it'll
I know,
Clear
I know,
spotlight.
I know we can do that for sure,
that-
right?
That's the only way it actually is going to work. So spotlight's always going to just do one. You'd have to put a
Spotlight
request
shouldn't
into
do-
the
Spotlight
GitHub repo.
shouldn't just do one. Spotlight should replace the spotlight that's there. Whether it's with replace it with why the limitation of replace it with only one versus the main part of the rule should be replace the active spotlight, and that being that active spotlight is either 1, 2, 4. Replace the active spotlight with what I'm telling you to spotlight.
I
And
totally
that-
get what you're wanting it to do. What
No,
I'm
I
trying to tell you is
understand.
that's a request to the repo to get them to make that enhancement.
Yeah.
Because the code today, Spotlight just does a single, and add will do it. And I agree. I wish it worked the way you want it to work as well. We just have to make that request to the
And
maintainers.
it would mess people up if you were unable to add those 3 people and keep the main host. So if I have the next panel and the next group or whatever it is, I don't want to lose that first one.
Yeah, so they have 2 commands. One's called spot, which the intent's to replace the current spotlight. but as we've seen, it only does a single user for that, not the multi-user like Jeff is.
We didn't use that for the group though.
Yeah, well, we've tried that. We didn't use that for the group, but we've tried the
I
spotlight
just
before.
did. So I just did that.
Yeah.
I made 3 members select the group and spotlight, and like Justin's saying, it's only spotlighting the first one of the 3. So yeah, I mean, I'll put the request in because and the request is either treat the spotlights this way or change the presentation in companion, because it makes you think that it will spotlight those that are selected. The presentation's identical to supporting multi-selected people, but the result is, well, if you happen to have multiple people selected, I'm only spotlighting one. It makes no allusion to that at all. So we'll get that cleared off.
And I believe it matches what Zoom SDK allows, which is why it's a single user. There's even a note of it in the ZoomOSC documentation.
I understand
so that'd be
that.
companion.
So if Zoom is if Zoom is the hard rule, which they are, this is all we can do. That's fine. Then change the way companion presents the choice, and that is, don't present it like you've done every place else where it does support multi-selections, like it will do a multi-selection. You have to nail it down to just one user, and otherwise there's just pure confusion when your intention is met with a different result. So, all right. Well, hey, I'll tell you, I've been working with this stuff for kind of nonstop for last almost 2 weeks. Kind of hard on the 3.0 version, and there's still tons to learn. I mean, one thing that so the raising of hands is an issue at the moment. It's a known bug, and that'll get fixed. So if I raised my hand, I'm currently in position number 3 on the yellow buttons. If I raise my hand, my name will move up to the 2nd position behind the currently raised hand, but the hand gets put in the 3rd, right? That'll get fixed. But once that is fixed, this is just a prelude to when we come back and do more. When we come back and do more, we can also get into what's called triggers. And one that I'm working on, but I can't complete because of that bug, that is, I'll just walk through this. A trigger is, if this event happens and these conditions are true, then do this. That's really the basic concept of a trigger. So my thought is, when I've got, let's say 3 panels in a big event of, let's just say 900 people in a meeting, I want my panelists to show up 30 to 45 minutes early. And when they show up, the only instruction I have to tell them is to raise their digital hand. So when they raise their digital hand, this trigger, when they raise their digital hand, if gallery position 1's hand is raised, select them and add them to group 2. So they raise their hand, I've added them to group 2. I mean, I haven't done anything. The trigger did it, right? The trigger sensed in gallery position 1 that the hand was raised. Therefore, it automatically captures who you are and adds you to group 2. And it doesn't, if it was just position 1, I'd have to say, okay, Lois, you do it. Okay, Justin, you do it. Yeah, I don't necessarily want to do that. So I've written a few triggers that all do the same thing, but one does it for position 1, the next one for position 2, and so forth. So, as they all, if I know I'm just dealing with that group, they all raise their hands and my triggers cover the number of people there, then they all instantly become members of this group, and that group will stay intact the entire meeting. And that's where that's how I manage them, spotlighting, muting, everything. I never lose them in the crowd, if you will. So my point is here's triggers and how incredibly useful that they become. Like when you could be out here doing this, but you have a trigger always listening for that moment that you go, but when this becomes true, go do this for me. And it can become really, really useful.
So Jeff, why not have it so that position 1's hand is raised, they're added to the group, and their hand is lowered?
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't have to write separate things for position 2, 3, and 4. You'd just be dealing with position 1.
Brilliant. Truly. Great idea. Because then they could all be raised, all 15 people, and then my trigger is saying, gotcha, go away, gotcha, go away, gotcha, go away. And it's just one trigger. Love that. I should probably pay you something for that.
Answer my questions.
What do you got?
Okay, so well, first is about this that we're talking about. I noticed that in the buttons on the black screen that you showed us a moment ago, and maybe you could show that again. The name that was on that screen was the name currently on my frame. David's had the original name that I came in with, which I had changed. So his button was different than your button. And my question to you is, if someone changes their name, I changed my name again, is it going to mess up your buttons? No, it should keep up. It should keep up with it. When the data, it depends on what the page is displaying, right? And so, it's black right now.
If I go,
no, you
can't hear you.
Yeah, the automated accidentally pushed button also muted me. Sorry about that. All right. So the yellow buttons are my gallery buttons here. So things can shift and move. But
they updated automatically.
But even the bottom ones. So you didn't make my bottom list only because I only did 6. And these are based on order of arrival. So you came in later than number 6, if you will. But the gallery position should get you. And as a matter of fact, I've also made, and you're still a member of group 2. So now group 2 didn't update, interestingly enough, but the gallery did. That's interesting. Wonder why that's not keeping up.
What happens if you deactivate the instance for a moment and then reactivate it?
I don't want. Well, I try not to go that far that fast. So I'm going to change it to position 2, and then I'm going to change it back to position 1 just to see if that'll cause a refresh, and it does not. So yeah, no, and that actually is an interesting find, because on your screen in Zoom is the comma again. Gallery position keeps up with that, but there's refresh. You can say refresh is not happening on the names in the groups. And so if I went in and dug a layer deeper into the variables, because this is all being stored back here, we can
there I am.
Here you are, there you are with the again, and you should appear as well. You're here, that's the gallery value, but the group value is not updating when these changes above are taking place.
So if you did something to the group, would it find me or would it not find me because my name is different?
It probably won't find you. It is, if I were to go and select you. Oh, let me.
It finds her because
Oh,
it
yeah,
does it
yeah.
by Zoom ID, and her Zoom ID hasn't changed.
So we're going to select you, and we're going to. Oops, we were selected. Select and spotlight. So it does, yeah. So yeah, it's still a usable reference, but if we had, if we made the assignments and then there was some justifiable reason to actually have to change people's names or add that character before them that we do in shows or whatnot, the groups wouldn't reflect that right now, which I think that's an issue that needs to be looked at. So I'll get that in. But anyways, yeah, still usable.
So
But if I cleared the group real quick, I'll clear the group and add you to it, maybe. Oh, there we go. Then it sends the refreshed value. So it doesn't have a live, the group memberships don't have a live refresh right now. So
it's been 2.5 hours. Can I ask a question that's not about
Yeah.
this pretty soon?
no,
Tell me
you can
when
do
we're
it
done
now.
with this.
No, we've gone as far as we can go. We're probably beyond brain burn right now. So
Jeff,
Hit
before we
me.
move to Lois, could you cover how to submit these issues that we found? Just at least submit one, maybe.
only I'm gonna pause on it. And
Okay.
I said we'd go there, but I've lost too many people, and so I think I'll publish it instead and put it on Discord and so forth, and let everybody know where they can go and get signed up and submit.
This is all this is all published on YouTube, isn't it?
Well, this meeting, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Okay, good.
but the part that I'm not going to share here because we lost too many people, and I'll go publish that. That's in GitHub.
I'm just making sure that the folks who I'm asking the question for will be able to see it later by going to the
Sure. Oh yeah.
Go.
Ask away. Yep.
All right. So we have a daily meeting. We've always had the meeting in just one main room. We, for reasons I won't go into, want to have the meeting in a breakout room so that the entry room, people could chat and be introduced or get stuff explained or whatever, and then they go into the silent room. So we want everybody to be muted. So I'm assuming mute upon entry. That works in the main room. Does that carry over to the breakout room? Will they be muted in the breakout room?
I don't believe so.
Is there any way in the breakout room to mute all? I haven't seen any commands. Even if you're a host or a co-host in a breakout room, I don't see that little shield where you can do stuff.
Well, let's I think it's worth testing. I mean, we've kind of done things, but we, so there's 5 rooms right now. Did you bounce into one, Lois, earlier and come back?
I don't think
Looks
so.
like your name is lingering. Anyways, let's see the screen.
The rooms aren't open, so
yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're not open. That's true. But yet your name is there. It says Lois Richter, comma again, as if.
Oh, so it refreshed from when I did my name change. That is so bizarre. I was never in the breakout room.
It is a fresh name, but they've never been open during this meeting.
Yeah,
So
and I've
why
never
does it
been in
show
that
like
room.
You've lingered. Interesting. So I'm going to delete. I'm just going to create 2 rooms, and let's see. Got Lois
and I am a co-host,
so allow participants to choose a room. That's fine. Allow participants to return to the main session. That's fine. Automatically move. I'm not going to move you. I'm just going to open them, and I'll close them. And
Okay.
10 minutes. You can come back on your own. I won't pull you back.
All right. So I will go in there and see if I have any controls at all,
Yeah. So
and see whether I go in muted.
So
I'm
Lois,
muted.
you're a co-host.
Mhm.
Scott is a co-host. If you can, why don't you go into Lois, go into room 1. Scott, if you'll go into room 2, so we have a co-host in each room just to see what kind
But
of
the rooms aren't
controls.
open.
No, they will be.
Okay.
I'm just
I thought you
setting
told me
up
to do
there.
something. All right. Sorry.
And then everybody else can pick room 1 or 2. As a matter of fact, let's split this up too. Mike, when you go to your room, go there already muted. Justin, go there unmuted, and see how what your audio status is when you arrive there. That will help answer Lois's question. And then Lois, as a co-host, while you're there, see if you have some control under the participants window, and come back and let us know. All right. Here we go. So just choose a room and take a hike. All right. Quiet time for everybody online while they're testing some things out. All right. So what's the good word?
All right. So what we found is whatever our audio status was here when we went in there, it was the same. So he was muted in here. He got in there. He was already muted. I was unmuted. I'm unmuted. There is no shield to make any changes to universal commands like there is here.
Correct.
The security shield is missing. But we did find that he was muted. If I clicked the button on his participants list that said unmute, he was unmuted immediately, and it said the host has unmuted you. It didn't ask, it just did it. And when I muted him, it said the host has muted you. It didn't ask, it just did it. He was able to unmute himself once I muted him. I think those are settings that are in the meeting, back end. Is that not true?
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance Mike answered yes sometime in the past. Will you allow the host to unmute you? So I think that lets the host and co-host both, I think, have that privilege, because he's saying yes to this meeting ID, not me personally, so
I believe it's you personally. I think it's,
well, I mean, they do list it by name, but I think that's a convenience thing. Like, because if you go under audio settings, you can see people who can unmute you.
mm-hmm.
But is it really people, or is it the meetings where their ID is hosting them? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I believe
Jeff,
that it's not meeting, but it's person, because I've had 2 meetings and it carried over from one to the other.
But I could show up in another meeting
No, two of my meetings.
Yeah, but I say, like, if Mike hosted a meeting, I arrived and he gave me host,
That wouldn't do it.
that wouldn't allow me to unmute people who said, like, to me personally,
Mhm.
it only applies when they're in my account's meetings that I host. Like, I can fire up another 10 different meetings under my account and I'll be able to unmute you
Right.
every time.
So
I
it's
think
with
it's
the
more about
personal
my
account.
account.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not the meeting ID.
It's not tied to a specific
A
meeting.
meeting. No, it's
any meeting under my account. Yeah. So, all right.
So what
did
happened
you
in the
look
other room?
Did you have a 3-dot button under your participants window when you were in there? that
I
gave you some
did,
options?
and there was no, I mean, mute and unmute aren't part of the 3 dots. They're just in participants.
You were able to
Okay.
mute all. There's a mute all button, and ZoomOSC allows you to mute all, but there's no ability to prevent people from unmuting, like in a webinar. Still, panelists, you can keep it so they can't unmute. So if you're using a breakout room as a production room, anybody you let into that breakout room can unmute at any time. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff. All right. What else you got on your list of questions, Lois?
You know me too well. So in the same meeting where we're doing all of this stuff, do you have any suggestions for things I should set the meeting up having in order to make this move smoothly?
Well, that's kind of need more info kind of question, because like,
Yeah.
what does the meeting need to do, accomplish,
Yeah,
and so
it's a
forth.
bunch of people sitting around in silence. If somebody gets nudged and they want to say something, they'll stand up and or they'll turn on their mic and speak, and then it'll be back to silence. And so it's a self-regulated environment.
Gotcha. When it gets too quiet, just give them some music.
You turn that on in the middle of a Quaker meeting, you are going to have a
little bit of a problem, huh? That'll probably kill my YouTube now that it, because that was a real song. Normally I just play YouTube copyright free stuff. But anyways, I mean, it's the list of tools we've got. You've got chats now, you have polls, that can actually be quizzes, which are right and wrong answers.
Does Q&A work in a breakout room?
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
Q&A is main session.
And does
only.
Q&A work in the main room for everybody or just for host and co-host?
Well, I mean, everybody can submit questions. So when the host, pop up Q&A, if I share the screen, look at the right side, not the repeating infinite left side. I didn't even look at this earlier. Doug had submitted, for someone new to the Stream Deck, would you purchase a standard Stream Deck or an XL? I would never purchase a standard Stream Deck. You may not think you have a need to fill 15 buttons, but believe you me, 15 is not enough in a heartbeat. Now, there's multiple pages if you're using Companion. But,
And he asked that again in the chat, so that did get answered.
Okay, good. So, anyways, there's options on my side as the host. I can say participants can submit questions. So it's going to turn it on and turn it off. Allow anonymous questions, yay or nay, and then allow participants to view answered questions only or all questions. And if I say all questions, then do I want them to be able to upvote them? And do I want participants to be able to comment on them as well? Those are the options. And
how does one ask a question? Because I've opened this and I see questions and open, answered, and dismissed, but I don't see any place to write a
That's
question.
because you're a co-host.
Co-hosts can't ask questions?
Nope. No.
I'm going to have to lose some power to gain
Just,
some
I was going to
power.
say, just how much
You're-
power do you want?
You're there to
Oh,
answer, as the
I-
co-host, you're there to answer questions.
That's
Yeah, but
right.
I'd rather be the asker. Yeah, I'll know that.
So I've removed co-hosts. Now you'll be able to see the Q&A and ask questions. True.
True.
I wish the participant view of Q&A was a little better. I wish that answered questions would disappear. Because if you got 100 questions and people are typing in the answer to questions, you can still see those questions and you can still upvote them. So it would be nice if they added the answered tab to the participant view. That would be swell.
Yeah. To fill. Well, there is on my side, there is an answered tab.
Yeah, but for non-co-hosts, it's all the questions are just, they all stay there whether they're
They
answered
just
or
all
not.
stack
Yeah.
up.
It would help people upvote more because right now, if there was 100 questions there and half of them were answered, they're all mixed together still. And it'd be nice if
Yeah.
it was still only open questions. This way, they could keep on upvoting, which I found the upvoting is very cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. I want to test something. I haven't stopped you, Lois. I just want to test something in chat. I saw some people posting on the community Zoom site. So I'm host. I've got a co-host. Scott is a co-host. And Lois, I'll make you a co-host again. Okay, so we have a host and 3 co-hosts right now. They were saying that the chat, like if an attendee sent a chat to the host, that they thought the visibility was screwed up, whether it was just the host or whether it got distributed to all hosts / co-host, and vice versa and so forth. So
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
I was wondering if we could, let's see, Mike, you are an attendee, non-host, non-co-host. And your ability to send, I mean, it's not like you can send to a group called hosts or co-hosts, right? You're always having to pick an individual, correct? And or everyone.
I just changed it so he can only send to host and co-host.
Yeah, you changed the settings.
Right. That's what I'm wondering is
correct.
Once we do that, does he get that other option?
Yeah. So
Only any of the individual hosts or co-hosts I can pick on this other one I'm in.
So you can't send to all of them. You're still, even though you're limited, you can't see attendees anymore, but you still are selecting one of those hosts or co-hosts, right?
Yeah, correct.
So
You
go ahead and
can't send to the role of co-host. You have to pick a person.
Yeah. So go ahead and pick Jeff and send me a message, and that is Jeff. Who am I?
The VMix Jeff?
Jeff VMix is the one I'm watching. So Frank sent one, Scott sent one, and Mike sent one. Now the question is, do my co-hosts see any of those messages?
No, they were directly to you.
Well, no, I get that, but that was this post on the community was all the kind of the host group would see what people would send. It's like,
no,
it doesn't do that.
Doesn't do that.
It was really strange.
No, maybe if they were talking about questions.
So no, it was definitely chat.
I saw that post on the community forum. And I
Yeah.
replied to it. I think they just were embarrassed because they didn't use the tool correctly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of those things you read, and some I just ignore and I totally shrug off, and some I'd like to call the police on. But and some are just like, I mean, there's one, they just don't give you enough information. Others are like, you just sit there and quietly go, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you're telling a community that knows there's no way Zoom does that, right? Yeah, I mean, some are just like way out there, and then there's some very legitimate posts
Oh
that
yeah,
need help.
50% of the questions, if they just went to the Zoom support site, they'd have the answer.
Oh,
like it's the same
absolutely.
amount of typing to Google Zoom support and your question as it is to post it in the community.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me. I'm gonna do a threaded reply. First threaded reply, and send that. Who did I just thread back to? Mike's. Yeah, some Mike's. And did anybody else see that? I just posted first threaded reply to Mike, and only Mike saw it. Okay. And I didn't have to, I mean, I hit reply to Mike, therefore it kept it in the private thread. I didn't have the ability to open it up, right? So,
Yeah. In my end, Jeff, it says it's a direct message.
Yep.
So, Jeff, if you took a direct message that had come to you and you replied to all, it wouldn't quote his message. It would just send your new message to all, to everyone, right?
I don't think I can reply all. I mean, there's no reply all option for.
There's an everyone down in the to field.
Yeah, but that's not replying to.
That just gives yours as a new message.
That's not replying in a threaded manner, so it's no longer connected to, his private message to me.
There's just community messages and private messages. That's all there is.
Yeah. There's no crossover. I was just interested in kind of testing this out just to make sure, because boy, they were beside. I mean, I think they even closed their post with, "Well, it's making us reconsider the platform we're using," or something. It's just like, really? I mean, goodness sakes, it kind of extreme. But needless to say,
I do have one more when you're done, please.
Yeah. No, I'm done. I'm satisfied with that.
All right. So I have noticed, and I'm trying to find out if it's true for everyone, that if I go to the closed caption view transcript, the first time that I view it, there's nothing in it. As soon as I start viewing it, then whatever is being said is put in there. Is that true of everyone, or is it just my system doing weird stuff, or what?
Do you mean like from when you turned it on forward versus the history of the conversation, or?
I've been in this meeting for a couple of hours. I have not looked at full transcript until just now. And just now I looked at it, it was blank, but as soon as I looked at it, it started filling up with the words that y'all were saying. So I know that it's working, but it's not showing anything before I looked at it. If someone who has not used the closed captioning were to turn it on, someone else in the room, would you see anything before you turned it on?
Well, you have to turn it on to see anything. So
yeah.
Okay. So Lois, as you're saying that to me, I did that, and you were the first person.
Yep, that's what I thought. Frank.
So this functionality recently changed. It's used to be the host had to enable closed captions for the meeting. Now it's on demand. You can call for it yourself, but there's the audio transcript, which the host of the meeting can arrange when he schedules or she schedules the meeting. That will give you a full transcript of the entire meeting, but only a host can share it later on. If you are in a meeting and you ask the system to provide you with captions, they start from when you call for them. They're not going to go retroactive for you.
but
And
my
the full transcript.
cloud recordings captures the whole
Yeah.
thing. I can't
Yeah.
see it right now.
Yeah.
But it'll be there after the meeting's done. I can go see
Yeah.
the whole transcript because I've told it to record that.
Right.
So even though I'm not seeing the pop-up closed captioning, I didn't click the show me the closed captioning. I just said, let me look at the full transcript. And so that's triggering the same thing, is what you're saying, Frank?
I don't know if that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if the host prearranges when they schedule the meeting for an audio transcript, the host will get access when the meeting's done processing on the cloud server. They'll get a complete transcript that they can do whatever they want, including mail it or share it after the fact. But during the meeting, if you personally call for live transcription, it's from the moment you call for it. It's not going to retroactively fill in the details because you didn't call for it sooner.
Even if someone else had called for it earlier.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Each person
Person by
for it.
person.
Yeah, so
well, that's
really
good.
turn it on immediately if you know that you're going to need it. Like call for it the minute you jump into the meeting.
Good. Thank you for that clarification. And I'm done with questions for today. Bye.
Oh, what are we gonna do? All right.
Oh, you've gotten 2.5 hours of talking in. All right, you're doing
I
fine.
know. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. So yeah, it's 3. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Jeff, I just wanted to add a quick one from Companion.
Sure.
It was related to, again, I'm looking at the beta. So I'm looking at version 3 versus version 2.42, I guess, as of within actually the 2.4.2, just for everybody's sake, just got released as we started the meeting.
Yeah.
So it literally was, stable, just came out live, the 2.4.2, because I just checked on GitHub. My question was the warning symbols that I'm getting on certain modules in 3, I guess just for the audience's sake. I don't want to assume. I think I know the answer, but I don't want to assume. My thoughts is that it's certain modules have not been upgraded to the version 3.0 because of the rewrite. And it's a warning signal letting you know that you're using the 2.4-ish version of the module. I just wanted, if you've run into that, Jeff, or not, or anybody in the room. So an example would be, of course, PTZ cameras being controlled by Companion. Right now, if you tried to use, depending on the manufacturer, and if they've updated to the version 3.0 in their module, are they actually, are you seeing this warning symbol?
Yeah. I mean, the fact is, I think 90+% all have the orange flag on them, right now. And it just slowly over time, they, they'll get after doing it. But, my understanding, like Zoom, Andy/Zoom, I'm pretty sure had described that commonly it's the open community that just owns these modules, their developments and their updates. It's not the vendor. Zoom right now is pretty intimately involved at the moment. They're not right now, but I think there's some pretty strong guidance on it just to really help get its legs right now. I think aligned to their initiatives as an organization, this full rewrite, rather big undertaking, and so forth, that they're there more. But eventually they'll kind of let that leash go as well, as I understand it, and the community will support it appropriately. So, if a lot of these modules are, community based in the Companion world, it might take them, a while to get these things updated. So
yeah. So I just wanted to let everybody know that today, if you were using the 3.0 version of beta that Jeff was talking about today, beta or the experimental version, because the 2.4.2 actually, there was a push of the, there was a fix pushed in the 2.4.2 stable version that I was reading related to timer. And I'm not an OSC or ISO 100%. So I don't know what the timer issue was, but that was fixed, and that was pushed in the 2.4.2 version of ZoomOSC ISO. And what was I going to say? And the version of the module has been already upgraded to 3.0 because it's not giving any warnings.
Very good. Very good. All right. I think that that's all we're going to tackle today. There's it's a powerful tool. I mean, and there's been a lot. I mean, there's so much we really, didn't talk about. And then there's still some pieces and parts that I haven't gotten to yet, like action recorder and when or why, that would be used. I've done variables and custom variables and triggers and so forth. So, but we'll definitely continue down this path and help as many, in our community to get familiar with this, because I think we'll have a leg up for sure, and really have a good, strong understanding. We have talked in the past about latch. So you push and release a button, but latch keeps it pushed. Basically, it only executes the actions under the press or the latch section. And then when you press and release it again, it unlatches it, and that's when it will execute the actions under the unlatched section. Latch specifically, which was just a checkbox that changed press actions and release actions. It changed the words to latch actions and unlatch actions. That presentation is gone in 3.0. What they've replaced it with is right above press actions is step 1. So every button has a step 1. And so the step 1 has a press and release. And then you can add a step 2, and that has its own press and release. And you can add a step 3, which I have not been able to conceptualize yet of why or when I might use that, but you can add steps. And so they've given us the opportunity, if you will, to have a release as well, a press and release as the first kind of group of actions that it does. But then if you press and release it, the same button again, you can have it do something else and again and again. So they're broken down in steps. So a latch would be step 1 and a step 2. And maybe you don't use the release actions at all. You just put everything in press of step 1 and press of step 2, or release of step 1. You know what I'm saying? It's just, they give us the opportunity for the release. You might not use it, but the only way to simulate the latch that we used to have would be a step 1 incompletion and a step 2 is incompletion. So it's not a have to, your half button press and then the last half of button press. It's actually step after step. So I've done it, but it takes a little bit of getting used to. And then the feedback is on a separate tab, which I kind of understand, but the user experience kind of sucks. I think that when you're going through, a bunch of buttons and having to reset the color on that feedback, you have to click the button and then go to the feedback tab and click the button, instead of just clicking the button and scrolling down to feedback. I mean, it's a change of experience, and I'll get used to it, but it's a little bit of it's just, when we start complaining about a extra single mouse click, we've been doing it forever, and trying to speed things up and shorten the strokes, and they just happen to be mouse clicks instead. So, and because sometimes it's just almost a little bit hard to tell where you are. Are you on step 1? Are you on step 2? Are you in the feedback tabs when you've scrolled up? and you have to scroll back up to remind yourself where you are. So anyways, that's it for now. I have been working on icons more than just text these days. I don't know if I think I might have to. Let me open up my old version. Well, I posted it on Discord even.
Is there a marketplace for? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think Frank, you and I asked for the same icons from David, right?
Yeah, he's usually pretty good about that. He'll probably post it later. I just
Okay.
wonder if there's a marketplace or not even maybe for free. Like, is there a community where people are sharing all that stuff? I remember there used to be a Slack channel, but I think that got shut down.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
Here,
maybe our Discord could become
yeah.
a place.
Here's this was the initial. I've done some more things to this since then, but this is my initial collection that I built out, and it I don't know. At least it makes it a little bit more interesting. The local record, cloud record, those actually they're just gray right now, but when you press them, it changes to the word on, and it puts the red buttons in the middle, inside the grays, so that you have a indication. So those are they change graphics when you do it. I've also done like a green top left corner green dot icon on my selection pages, so that when they're selected, not only does it change the background, but it puts a green dot on them as well. So little stuff like that. I don't remember. I posted that. Yeah, Stream Deck buttons. Yeah, the PSD file. I put the Photoshop file out there. So, but not everybody uses Photoshop. But I just in Photoshop, I try to keep them pretty organized. I create, instead of just layers after layers after layers, they are layers, but I create folders that hold the layers for this icon and another group so I group them and organize them in folders within the layers. So it's pretty easy to understand where they are, but you have to be a Photoshop user to open it. But I also, this first file, this is just a zipped up collection of PNGs. So they're all outputted as well. So you're welcome to those, or, edit them away or whatever. I mean, this is all just the result of, Googling something, and I found one admit ticket, and I said, it'd look a lot better if there was more than one. So, so I stacked up 3 and I tilted them, but I found myself being able to fit more readable text even with a graphic if you do the whole button graphically. And that's the other thing, is if you turn off those header titles that Companion lets you have on or off, if you don't turn them off, you have to create an icon that's 72 by 58 pixels. But if you turn off those headers, and those headers don't do me a lot of good, then you can create a 72 by 72 pixel. And so you get another, 14, 15 pixels high to design to. So it comes in pretty useful. All right, you all. So I got data back. That's good. Gotta go report that there's a data breakage in that release.
There's a question in the chat. Is there a link to the Discord?
Yeah.
Since you've got it open.
Scott. Let me open this up and I'll invite people. Copy So this link, this invitation link will work for 7 days. You can use it, you can share it, but it will stop working in 7 days. All right. Thanks for asking. That's it. My Canadian friend. Scott, where are you out of?
I am in Germantown, New York, near
New
Albany.
York. My close to Canadian friend.
He's getting the same weather. We're just, I'm sending it to
That's
Frank,
right.
and then Frank's sending it to Scott.
Yeah, I'm about to go out in -45, so that'll be fun.
Is that right? Right now it's
yes,
minus 45?
yes.
With the wind chill, yeah.
But
Yes.
that's Celsius too, right?
Yeah, not
Yes,
freedom, not
yes.
freedom units.
Yeah, officially that would be -2, -3 Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
give or take.
So it's,
Scott,
I
you
know
guys are
metric much
getting in
better than
that too,
imperial.
right?
Yeah, the wind chill for sure. It was like 19 this morning, Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we woke up cold this morning. It was 9 degrees Fahrenheit, but it got up to 35. But the next, like tomorrow's supposed to be 50. The next, and Saturday and Sunday is supposed to be like 55 to 60. So I don't have much to complain about.
T-shirt weather.
I know. All right. That is it till next week. And if I have anything to share, I'm sure I will dive pretty deep into this stuff, and I'll do it on the Discords and emails. So have a good weekend, everybody. And we will see you next week. Next Friday, 3 o'clock.